Well, we may still be under lockdown, but we're here to talk to Gibberpish, isn't that right, Dom?
Fuck, I'm yawning.
Take two.
Hold on.
Welcome to the Gibberpish podcast.
And go.
Well, we may still be under lockdown, but we're here to talk Gibberpish, aren't we, Dom?
Yep, back once again doing the bringing you remote pish to electric boogaloo.
And I gotta say, like, this is interesting because we're now at the point where everyone who podcasts or talks about video or does videos or anything like that has the time to be under lockdown and then produce content. So we're now starting to realize that people aren't enjoying. Like, people thought this would be fine. That's like a 3 week holiday. Now you're at week 3, and it doesn't look like this is going to end. So now we have people just starting to get a little bit cabin feverish.
Yeah, there's talk of the lockdown extending for another 3 weeks at a minimum. So I think this is going to be something that people are just going to need to get used to. It's going to be June before you get back out, if you're lucky.
Yeah, I can't imagine this going any shorter than like end of May, start of June, and that was just like that's me being generous. And then I feel like we're gonna have to really buckle down and like get into a proper mindset of this has to be taken seriously. I mean, the Queen spoke about it. I don't know what more you people need. Her Majesty has spoken. Get in your fucking house. Stop trying to throw house
Yeah, but
parties.
the thing that people took away from the Queen's speech was not the fact that she had a very powerful message to deliver. That message being stay in your fucking house, don't leave the fucking house, stay safe, stay home.
You
What people
peasants.
took away from that video was the fact that she was wearing a green dress or a green jacket or something, so they just went to town with a green screen. Like they gave her like, tie-dye t-shirts and weird headbands. They gave her Star Trek admirals red shirts and shit like that. They went to town with that stuff.
Actually, I googled this because I knew that the first week of the lockdown, Greater Manchester Police had an absolute nightmare. They shut down 600 house parties. We are technically getting better. Apparently, this weekend it was only 494. So we're getting there,
Oh, that's
kids.
not bad.
Finally on your no coronavirus parties. Don't cough on each other. No running out to get non-essential items. We're getting there. It's only taking several weeks of a global pandemic for people to take this seriously.
Yeah, it's now getting to the point where the police are doing active sort of drive-throughs of my local area, just double checking that people aren't in the park that's across from where I live, or they're hanging about in the numerous sort of open field areas that are situated around Bowness, because no one was taking this shit seriously until the police had to step in.
Yeah, and I think it's just, I think we've talked this in the past before, it's just, there was a threat out there, but it's not a physical, visible threat. So it's very hard to explain to people who don't understand that this is a virus that doesn't it spreads before you're symptomatic. Like you're spraying this everywhere before you even know you have it. I mean, a lot of people seem to, like the news coverage has changed. It was all about the prep and the numbers and like the total of people affected in like the US and Italy. And now that it's hit the UK, it's totally changed because this week Boris Johnson had it and was actually hospitalised and taken to an ICU because he got the virus.
Yeah, he got C virus.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, there's no way that this was done intentionally. Like, he was gonna get it eventually. He meets with too many people who meet with people who have the virus, so like he's gonna be transferred to eventually. He also made the fucking idiotic mistake of walking through a hospital shaking people's hands at the start of the outbreak,
Yeah,
which
that was dumb.
probably didn't fucking help.
Yeah,
But the amount of
use
attention
your
it's
own
getting,
advice and wash your damn hands, Boris Johnson.
it's almost as bad as the woman in the US who was saying, "Yeah, don't touch your own face," and then she licks her hand to turn a page. I don't know if you remember that clip, but that was fucking
I haven't seen that
hysterical.
clip, but that person is at the shallow end of the gene pool.
I'm pretty sure she was a doctor and like a senator at one point, and you're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" But yeah, like they've clearly just decided we're gonna have to like make the prime minister seem like a very relatable person. So let's make sure everyone knows that he has coronavirus. Like it was daily updates about how he's doing in the hospital. Like He's on a ventilator. He's not doing fuck all. Like, leave it
He's
be.
just sitting there doing the same shit for a week.
He's lying in a bed breathing. If that stops, I'll pay attention. Otherwise, he's just lying in a bed breathing.
I get that Boris Johnson is not the most popular person. Has never really been a popular person. But to the people of Twitter saying, "Hurry up and die, Boris Johnson," go and have a think. Go and phone your dad, phone your mum, have a conversation. There's clearly something else going on here.
Have a conversation with someone that doesn't involve tweeting them. We should
You're clearly angry at the wrong people here.
Yeah, we should point out that for people who don't come from the UK, Boris Johnson wasn't technically elected, really. He's like the head of the Labour, or he's the head of the Conservative Party, and we voted for them under Theresa May. I say we, I'm using the broad we for the UK, but the UK selected the Conservatives to lead the government, and Theresa May was there. She stepped down because Brexit was an absolute shambles, and then Boris took over and they ran it. They ran Brexit right the way through, and then they just were done. And now he just happens to be the guy in charge when coronavirus hits. So there's a lot of people who don't really like him and will take every opportunity to shit on him. So there's a bit of that when it comes to media coverage. Is they want to try? I think they want to try and humanize him a bit.
Yeah, they are taking this chance to maybe make him seem like less of a monster, make him seem like less of a bad guy. But that's how he reacts to his when he gets he's been discharged for the intensive care, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think that was last night. They rolled him out of the ICU. He's just in a kind of general ward.
Yeah, I think it's how he acts after his stint with C virus that really, really set up the rest of his term. Because if he just back to business as usual, keeps acting the way he is after his illness, it's the death knell for him.
The Conservative Party are infamous for being part of this whole thing to like minimise the NHS and try and sell it off and privatise it and generally underfund a national resource that basically lets the UK function well above, like, we punch well above our weight as far as like economics is concerned, and it's because we can rely on the NHS to do ridiculous things for the general public to like save us in times of need like now. Just it's not big enough and well funded enough to actually do anything right now, and that's why our emphasis is on flattening the curve. Like if you're in the UK, I just got my letter from the Prime Minister yesterday explaining what the British people need to do. I think it came out in England like 3 weeks ago, but Tories have always hated Scotland anyway, so fuck them.
They've never had the brightest view of the Scotland.
Yeah.
The Scotland? Oh, Jesus Christ. One of those episodes.
It's been a long day, kids. We're recording at 8 o'clock, and I'm not going to lie, with this whole lockdown situation, the days are bleeding together. A lot of people are picking up on that one.
If it wasn't for the fact that I put this into my planner as being Sunday, I'd have no way to fucking tell that it's Sunday. Is it even Sunday? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm booking in all my stuff. If I'm doing anything, if I need to be somewhere for a certain time, I'm always putting it in like my diaries and like notes and stuff like that on phones and on computers and stuff. Make as many notes as I can, because everything being locked down really just kind of fucks with your head, because there is really no, in a weird way, I don't want to say there's no meaning to time, but it really is kind of irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, because no one has to be anywhere for a certain time. Yeah. Like, I couldn't tell you I've been getting up at a certain time every day because I've got, dogs to take out and stuff like that. But if I didn't have that to do, I couldn't even tell you the time every day. I mean,
I'm still working, and I have no idea. Like, I'm still out I'm still out most days at work, and I'm still just completely an idiot at this point. But yeah, the government also is doing like those daily news briefings. I don't know if you watched Priti Patel's one yesterday. She's a senior cabinet member. She's been in the Tory party for ages, and she was getting so many comments about the fact she didn't have the right tone when addressing the nation or something like that. I'm like, you guys need to realise these are politicians. They don't give a fuck about people. Really. It's a weird assumption, the idea that a politician gets into like that level of government without being a little bit sociopathic.
Yeah, you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be dedicated. You have to be very motivated. And that does kind of come with its own degree of, sociopathy, not giving a fuck about other people.
Yeah. And people really, especially Twitter, I say people, like, it's mostly just the Twitter mobs, seem to forget that politicians, like, you got to understand that you are just a number on a piece of paper to these people.
Yeah.
They don't
You're
actually
just
give a shit
a
about you.
voter.
Yeah.
Quite literally just a voter in most politicians.
Oh, it changes on election years. As soon as it comes into election year, you matter. Like, we want to make sure that your family are looked after, that you yourself are going to do well under our government because we want you to vote for us. And then the second election day hits, you're just a number. And then you get them making statements like, I can't remember who leaked it out, but somebody leaked out of a meeting that the UK government is basically just accepting the fact that this will run through the population, which it will. It's a perfectly logical thing to say in a meeting of like high level strategy about how to deal with a global pandemic, is that this will affect everyone, almost everyone personally, and then it will affect the entire nation. This will be in our national psyche for decades and generations to come. And I just the fact that there's people reacting to this going, how dare they say that? Are they just giving up? It's like, no, this is just called pragmatism, you people.
Yeah. It is a pragmatic approach, and it is the more logical approach, like you said. But at the same time, the nation itself is on high alert. Everyone's, constantly on edge for multiple reasons. Main one being the pandemic, and they're just being quite blasé about it, quite passive. Just going, it'll run through the population. We can get through this. That kind of approach isn't really the best.
It doesn't read well on paper,
like
even
this.
though like everyone would say, yeah, it probably is. But then you have everybody who wants to take things so literally, and then I don't think it helps that people are stuck indoors all day just reading screens and reading news about the same issue day in, day out.
Yeah, it's got to be something like, as much as I don't like Facebook or Twitter at this point, there are still some people out there who are putting up things saying, oh, we're all sick of talking about COVID-19. Let's post some pictures of, you on your first holiday out with your parents or something like that, and let's get a conversation going. There's still nice shit like that, but I think at a certain point we need to remain updated about this because it's still going to affect us for a while longer. We need to keep cognizant of it at least.
I do think that there's a time and a place, and I would really recommend that nobody spends more than half an hour watching the news a day. There's no way you should be engaging in it for like the full, like, there's a 24-hour news cycle so that anyone could come in at any point in the day to ingest the news and then walk away informed. But at the same time, I would never recommend someone sit there for more than half an hour and watch the news. You'll go absolutely mental before the end of the day.
You will go insane. Although you could always watch Piers Morgan do an impression of a Chinese man and just wonder how that fucker's still on TV.
I'm sorry, you fucking what, mate?
Yeah, what's the name of the show that he does? Is it Good Morning Britain?
Yeah, Good Morning Britain.
Him and the goddess herself, Susanna Reid. She's sitting, they're talking about, it was some royal that was doing a milk advert in China, and Piers Morgan just goes, he tries to read the Chinese on the screen, and he just goes, I am Prince whatever, ching chong ching chong ching, and you can literally see Susanna Reid just go, like, put her head in her hands and just go, you can't say that. What
Oh my god! He's every now and the problem is every now and again he says something, you go, fuck, I really can't help but agree with you on that one, and then he does dumb shit like that and you're like, fuck, this is why I don't like agreeing with you on some subjects, because you do shit like this. Oh, I'm gonna go find that clip after we're done here. That's gonna be although if I type in Piers Morgan being racist, I get the feeling there'll be more than a few videos that come up on that one. Piers Morgan Chinese. Yeah, okay, I'll save that one for later. I'll leave that open in the tab.
put that up in the Discord, or if you can't find it, I'll put it up in Discord. But yeah, it's just from the minute he says the first ching chong, whatever the hell it is, his co-host just goes, "Oh Jesus, why do we let you be a thing?" And he starts trying to defend himself. He's saying, "I'm not doing an impression of Chinese people. I'm doing an impression of Chinese language." I'm like, "You're not helping your case." Like,
my favorite part is
stop talking.
You type in Piers Morgan CH. My assumption would be China. It is Piers Morgan Ching Chang Chong. Jesus Christ. How I get the feeling this is not the first time he's done that. And this is not from this is like the 21st of January by the looks of things. This is when the first video I can find any kind of evidence of this incident. So this wasn't even at the height of coronavirus.
It might have been earlier in the year, but it's still something that popped up recently.
Right, excellent. If we're going to talk about weird stuff related to coronavirus and news and celebrities and all these weird things, I found out, I know you're not a big fan of Community, but Joel McHale and Ken Jeong from the show have started a podcast, okay, a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
People forget Ken Jeong was a doctor.
He
And
still is.
He's still. I don't know if he has a
He
medical
still
license.
does a sort of consultancy work.
Yeah, he's still there. Like, he still has all the academic backings. He hasn't lost his license, or I don't know if he can still practice. I wouldn't tell him to scrub up and anything like that, but he's also married to a practicing doctor as well, and they have started a podcast, and it is a lot of fun. I really enjoy listening to it because I'm a big fan of Community, and I like the fact that Joel McHale is a dick, so this podcast is right up my alley. They had Andrew Yang on, the US presidential candidate, for episode 2, just because he knows Ken Jeong. Like, they've had conversations before in the past, especially during like the elections and stuff, because Ken Jeong wanted to endorse him but wanted to talk to him first. So trying to give him a bit of a boost, because Andrew Yang was swinging for the fences on a fucking low budget. He was really trying to make his way into politics, but basically no basis for it. And they had him on, and I was laughing my ass off because they're trying to do a serious interview with him, but they're totally new to podcasting, so they're not actually doing questions. They at one point are deliberately talking over each other to annoy each other, instead of talking to a US presidential candidate and businessman whose entire thing was universal basic income, which is basically being used right now to support the US economy during the coronavirus, and they're just talking over each other instead of just to deliberately piss each other off rather than interviewing the guest. I was in absolute fucking tears because I was in the line to go to the shops and was just laughing my head off at just this dumb argument that we're having. It was absolutely fantastic. It's a weird way to run a podcast, but it worked.
Yeah. I'm actually enjoying quite a lot of the online content that people are doing. I know you're probably not a huge fan of The Office or the US Office, but the guy that played the main character in that gym, he started this thing called Some Good News, or I think it's the Good News Network or something like that. And that's actually pretty good, because I'm just saying that this happened in this town, and it was a good uplifting moment, and that happened in this town.
Yeah, I'm getting there with The Office, so I'm going to start watching it. I think I've watched the first 4 or 5 episodes of the US version and the UK version, so I'm watching them. And yeah, I'll actually check him out, because I heard him being mentioned on Philip DeFranco's show when this all started.
Yeah, because he was doing some pretty cool shit for people. There was a little girl that was she'd got tickets to see Hamilton, that big show that was directed by that guy from that one episode of How I Met Your Mother. And she was bombed out that she couldn't see it, so John Krasinski got the entire cast of Hamilton on Broadway to sing a song to her. So there's some pretty cool shit in there.
I mean, if you've got the contacts and you've got the connections to Lin-Manuel Miranda, that's who it is, I remember.
I believe his official name is that guy from that one episode of How I Met Your Mother.
My apologies, didn't realise he changed his name. My bad. I'm not.
Yeah, he did legally. He was sick of being confused. And,
it was. I should really just get it over and done with and just say, yes, I am that one guy from that one episode of How I Met Your Mother. So yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about things to distract you from coronavirus, let's get into the main bulk of our episode. Unless you got something else.
Before we move into that, there's certain people that need to be called to task for, just being dicks during the coronavirus. And I'm going to call it my uni for not really keeping up to date with online exams.
Oh shit!
So many other universities in the country are getting 2 weeks to do their exams. They're getting 24 hours to do each exam, and all the exams have to be in before the end or the start of May. Some people are getting 8.5 hours per exam. My uni is getting 4 hours per exam, and they all have to be done within 3 days of each other.
Huh. That's pretty harsh given the circumstances.
Yeah, it is. And there's been an email that has been collated with all the emails that we've been sent from other universities saying this is what we're doing. This has all been collated and sent off to my form tutor, because this is shit.
So I mean, how do you even justify the fact that there is a double standard for your university class, which will have to do it under what are, let's be honest, normal exam conditions, given that everyone else is just being told, I get it, and at some point next week, nobody really gives a shit.
Yeah. I mean, the only bonus about it is we're getting open book. That's how they're trying to justify it. We're getting open book conditions, but every single other universities that's doing exams right now is getting open book conditions as well, and they're getting additional time. Our only saving grace is we're getting double the usual allotted time for an exam. But what's 4 hours to do an exam when other people are getting 8 hours, 2 weeks, till the end of the month?
Hmm.
It's bullshit. Napier, you need to get your shit sorted.
How, when you're talking about being open book, the questions that you'll have to be answering for this exam, you've probably done some mock exams, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's mock exams from because this is a little insider secret for all you would be university students out there. All your exams go in a 2-year cycle. So if you're wanting exam questions from 2019, look at that module's exam questions from 2017.
So,
So if you
I was going to say, like, what's the format of the questions? It won't be just like question answer, like ticky boxy stuff. It'll be like essays, right?
yeah, it's your typical exam. You'll get three questions. You'll get 6 questions. You have to answer 3 of them. Some of them will be problem questions, like A comes into the law office complaining of B, C, D, and E. Advise, provide legal authority, and you'll get other questions that like explain the entire theory of the named person in family law. Then you'll get other ones that's just here's 4 scenarios, right? Short notes and 4 scenarios. All this kind of long form essay questions. But there are some essay questions or some exams that you'll need to do, one compulsory question, and that will be about a certain subject. So it's something that we're all prepared for, but it just seems to be shitty that we have to do it in this circumstance,
But
where
it's
everyone else
mostly
is getting
essay
much more lenient
questions.
circumstances.
What I'm getting at, it's mostly essay questions, so you're probably going to just have just sheer volume of writing, and then concentrating during that process must be an absolute nightmare, as much as it is open book. And obviously they'll know if you're just copy pasting. You like actually maintaining concentration for 4 hours during an exam is a fucking nightmare. It's the reason I don't enjoy education that much. Is just the end examinations are just absolutely like nerve shredding.
Personally, I hate exams at the best of times, but the fact that I'm a law student who, in practice, will never be without a bundle of notes or without some kind of electronic file that I can just refer to for any case notes, then has to do closed book exams. I think it's ultimately useless. It doesn't prepare us for the job at all. So I think all exams should be open book anyway. Because you're never going to be like that in practice. You're never going to be in medical practice and have to do everything off the top of your head. You will have references.
Yeah, I mean, there might be scenarios where you have to act quickly, but even then you'll walk in and say, off the top of my head, this is the best plan. However, let me consult with other people. Let me go back, fact check, and prepare and plan and stuff like that.
That's my campaign for my 4th year. Try and get open book exams for all law students.
I'm sure that'll make you popular with the university. You'll be fine. Well,
Oh, they'll love me. They'll love me anyway.
they will love me or they will fear me, whichever one I decide.
Either way, it makes no difference to me.
Anyone else who needs called out?
Just the fucking idiots who are still going to the park and taking walks around the woods near my house. Because it's not just because it's sunny doesn't mean you have to fucking go out. It's not a holiday. You're meant to be inside, isolating, staying safe. I don't care if you and all your children need to go out and test out their new scooters. Just stay the fucking side.
That's one group of people I do feel really sorry for, is like, people who have kids, especially like little energetic, but like get to a certain age, like you get a guy at like age 10, 12 till like 15, they're not going to give a shit. You're like, hey, you want to play Fortnite all day? Or do you want to play whatever, new games out all day today? Absolutely, let me go fucking go ham on the console, like I'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
But imagine
I can imagine the older kids are just having a great time because there's no school, unless they're being homeschooled. 'Cause I can imagine there's a lot of parents out there that are just sitting thinking, I can't homeschool them. I don't have the training. I don't have the knowledge. Fuck it. You're on summer holiday between now and August.
Yeah.
They're just letting their kids do whatever the fuck they want. But can you imagine being the one kid that's like, all his friends are saying, dude, we're going to be on Fortnite in about half an hour. You coming on? It's like, nah, me and my dad are working through algebra right now.
No, my
Imagine
dad
being
bought
that kid.
textbooks, so now we have to learn. I was gonna say, like,
£300 Amazon order in, and it's all textbooks.
is it like imagine having a 5-year-old right now. Fuck that. Absolutely. Like it's an argument for not being a parent right now. Is just imagine having to entertain a non-stop bundle of energy.
I mean, my brother's kind of going through a bit of that just now with a very energetic 7-year-old.
Ooh.
Yeah, she's not 8 years old, but apparently she's been pretty good about it. She has a bow and arrow, so she can go and shoot targets in her back garden. If she gets bored, she can just start shooting neighbour kids that are out playing when she's stuck inside. So she'll have shit to do.
She'll be fine. She'll be entertained with the screams. Actually, if you could say, do you remember that happened? Like, it actually happened to me, talking about like the one kid who had to learn during a break. Obviously, we were at a primary school and it burnt down, and we got sent home for like 2 weeks because there's nothing we can do. And I actually had to keep learning. My mum and dad actually sat and wrote out math problems for us to do, and like had told us to write sentences and read books and stuff and report on them, while school was closed. And everyone else was like, "Yeah, we're just going to go out and hang out for 2 weeks." I'm like, I want to do that, but I have to learn how to do like math. I was that kid. I just remembered I was that kid growing up.
I'm pretty sure I didn't get things to do. But during that 2 week when the school did burn down, I think I had to stay inside and only go out when the usual school day had finished. Like, I had to stay inside and do whatever the hell I did, because I definitely wasn't homeschooled or anything like that. Both my parents worked at that point, so they were just like, fuck it, you're in the house doing whatever the hell you want. Either that or I got shipped off to one of my aunties for the week.
Oh, yeah.
And I got told to do stuff in their house.
A lot of cleaning that you could do for your auntie. It's always that thing of like, hey, you're going to your aunt's house. Yay. They have stuff for you to do. Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Hey,
my auntie, I remember my auntie when I was younger, they had a big house. Like, now that I see it now, it's a fairly big house, but when I was younger, this thing was a goddamn mansion.
Yeah.
And for a kid that played Resident Evil quite a lot, I was terrified of certain rooms in that house. So there was a lot of cleaning to be done in that house.
Speaking of Resident Evil, the third one that came out, right?
Yeah, the third one came out, and two mixed to slightly positive reviews of the game. And I can't blame the people that say this is awful, but I also kind of want to check some of the people that say this is the best game ever and it's better than 2, because it's a good game. I'm not gonna lie, solid 8 out of 10.
Right.
But considering that Resident Evil 2 was a 10 out of 10, maybe even breaking the system to an 11 out of 10, there's some questions that need to be asked about this transition from 2 to 3. Because when I finished Resident Evil 2 the first time, I thought, this is the definitive version of Resident Evil 2. The GameCube version is good. It's still the OG, but
always going to have a fond memory in my heart, but at the same time, got to be real here. This is the real shit.
They cut out some content from 2, but there was still the core game there. You still fought the giant alligator in the sewers. You still, fought the liquor in the police station. You still got the same guns here. You still hit the same beats.
Now, I'd seen the footage of you fighting the alligator in the sewer. That was in the original as well.
Sorry, say that again. You cut out.
I've seen the footage of the guy fighting the alligator in the sewer in the new one, but I didn't know that was in the original as well.
Yeah, that was in the original, but it was kind of a bit more fleshed out because when you're trying to go get something in the underground, and you go to this kind of big trash compactor area, and there's just a blacked out alligator because they couldn't really hide it. They just had to put it in this one location and black it out.
Huh.
So that when you go in and activate it, that's when it uncovers and this clearly alligator looking shape comes at you.
See, that's weird because I'd love to see like PlayStation. Was it 1 or 2? I think it was 1.
1, yeah.
PlayStation 1 graphics try to do a giant scary alligator in the middle of a sewer system. I'd love to watch that. I'm going to go find clips of that later on.
Yeah, you'll be able to find some clips of it. There's a lot of people playing it, but the fight itself ends pretty quickly if you know what to do. Like, because there's these red barrels all about the place. What you need to do is you need to stand behind the red barrel so the alligator bites the barrel, then just shoot the barrel and its head blows off. Literally, it's a 10, maybe 30-second fight if you know what you're doing. But in the updated version, the remake for the Xbox One and PS4, it's actually this proper long chase sequence where you need to avoid it snapping jaws, and because of the new RE engine, it looks cinematic as fuck, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen people do that segment, and it's a lot of like jumping over poles and like avoiding objects that are in the sewers. And all I could think about was like old school Crash Bandicoot games, where like normally it'd just be like going left, right, side scrolling, or you'd just be running forward. But occasionally you'd have like levels where you were running towards the camera, so you would only be able to see like 10 feet in front of you, and you'd have to react to it and as fast as you could. And obviously, as a kid, you suck at that stage, but then you play it now, you're like, oh, this is so easy. This is absolutely like child's play. But when you do that level as like a kid, you're just running into everything. You die like 40 times in the level.
Yeah, I call that the Zelda experience, because when you're younger playing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, there's certain temples that you couldn't do. Like, as I called them, the Big Brother temples, where you go, I can't do this. Older brother, get me past this level. I can't do it.
Well, as the older brother, fuck you for putting the responsibility on my part, okay?
Yeah, you get all this shit. I got two older brothers I can pass the buck on to.
Yeah.
But yeah, now you go back to it. Now you're like, oh right, why did I have to get someone else to do this? This is piss easy.
So how is Resident Evil 3, like, if it's weird to hear it's getting a mixed reception if the second one knocked out the park, is it lesser?
It is lesser to gameplay and story degree, but in terms of the visuals, the graphics, and the overall layout of the game, it's a lot better than 2 because the graphics are a lot better. They're working with an updated RE engine. The gameplay mechanics in there are a bit more fleshed out because there's more that you can do with the character. Before in RE2, you could walk and shoot. With this one, there's a dodge mechanic, so that plays more into the game. If you get a perfect dodge, you get a kind of bullet time thing that is really, really helpful, almost invaluable in the higher difficulties. So there's in terms of sort of graphics, they've just done a lot more with the engine. There's a lot more color, a lot more neon lights. There's a lot more different colored backgrounds. So they're really trying to get the most out of the engine.
Okay.
And there's more of the enemy. There's more zombies kicking about because you're at the outbreak in a non-contained area. You're just in the streets of Raccoon City. So with the police station, that was locked off, barricaded. Not many zombies got in there unless they were already in there and infected.
Right.
Whereas out in Raccoon City, there's just shit tons of zombies everywhere.
Yeah, it's just
Like, you
public
could
streets and just the horde is out there.
Yeah, you can get caught at any fucking point. So there's a lot more in the game, but there's just story-wise and gameplay-wise, there's just, well, not gameplay-wise, but story-wise, it just seems kind of almost they've rushed it a little bit.
Well, I was going to ask, do you
'Cause
think they've cut content for DLC?
I don't think they've cut content for DLC. I think they've cut content because they wanted to focus on the Resident Evil Project Resistance, because it seems a lot of that was made in sort of before they started working on the final parts of Resident Evil 3. So you just thought, right, we'll leave Resident Evil 3 as it is, we'll focus on Resistance. And there are some levels in Resistance that you can tell they've just put into 3.
So what's Project Resistance? Is it just like a spin-off game, or is it a new game for like a different console, or?
Project Resistance it's kind of the multiplayer for Resident Evil 3.
I see, right.
Think of it like a Dead by Daylight, what's the other one? Friday the 13th type of game, where it's one mastermind working against 4 main player characters. The player characters, they'll have objectives within the mission. They'll have one character will be kill 10 zombies using a melee weapon. Another character will be activate this computer. Another character will be prepared these defenses. They'll have individual objectives within the game that will help them progress through the level. The mastermind has basically just got to fuck them up at any turn.
Okay.
So the mastermind will be able to drop in more zombies. The mastermind will be able to drop in harder enemies. It'll be able to drop in a tyrant if he feels the need to.
So the mastermind is basically going to play a strategy game against first-person shooter or third-person shooter characters.
Yeah, and they'll be able the characters, they'll be able to accrue points, and they'll be able to buy upgrades, and they'll be able to buy guns, different types of ammo, healing items, and shit like that.
That actually sounds kind of interesting. Like, maybe not worth taking content out of the original game for it, but that's a cool concept.
It's interesting until you play the game, and then the game itself is very slow to get into in terms of the lobbying system, and it is very quick to lose. If you make one misstep, that's the whole thing fucked.
Ah, right, okay.
And it's kind of slow and it's kind of clunky. If you're looking for a Resident Evil experience with a kind of Dead by Daylight mechanic, just play Dead by Daylight. You're going to get a much better experience.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially now, don't really appreciate a long lobby system and then like a quick out. A lot of people get really burnt on that in battle royales. Like every time you have to reload in, squad up, jump in the bus or whatever, jump in the AC-130, and then parachute down. Like, it became a selling point later on that you didn't have to do that in battle royale games. So that won't last long.
But I can see them doing a lot of updates to Resident Evil Project Resistance because they're going to want to keep that going for as long as possible. Because at this point, it's been out came out on the 3rd of April.
Mm-hmm.
It's been out for just under a week, or just over a week, sorry. And I can't really see Capcom just scrapping it and moving on to something else. They'll probably keep supporting it for a bit. And as for the main game, Resident Evil itself, I can see them doing DLC with it, maybe adding in some more cut content, maybe splitting up Jill and Carlos's paths a little bit in the game a bit more, just to kind of make more of a robust experience.
Okay.
it's a big if because Capcom have this very, I'd say, logical habit of just if a game's not performing well, they just let it ride out. Then they'll move on to something else. It's what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which was not a bad game in terms of how the game played. It was a fairly solid game to play, but it just looked horrible and it had a piss poor roster. So they supported it for a bit, for maybe 6 months, then just let it trickle away to the point where I'm pretty sure you can't even buy physical copies, or you can buy physical copies of Marvel Infinite for under a tenner. Because Capcom, I mean, there's no point in buying a game that's not being supported anymore. So I'm kind of hoping they don't do that with Resident Evil 3, but it is apart from Monster 3 or Resident Evil itself is what's keeping Capcom afloat right now. Because Street Fighter, a lot of people are kind of seesawing on Street Fighter 5 because it's good, but then they introduce a new character and that drops the estimation a bit, so they're kind of in this weird limbo with Street Fighter right now. It's kind of Resident Evil and Monster Hunter that's keeping them afloat. But the problem with that is they're kind of entering this weird Assassin's Creed space with Resident Evil because they've released a Resident Evil game every year.
For the last couple of years, yeah.
The last couple of years, whether it be a remake or a remaster or something like that.
Well, I did see something about the a possible, like, they're going for number 4 as well.
Yeah, which is not
going to
people are not going to be okay with that. I can see them not being okay with that. Personally, I think if they want to do remakes that need it, they go back and they do Resident Evil 0 and do that game well, because that game's tough at the best of times. Because there's no item boxes.
Okay.
There's no boxes where you can just dump all your stuff, go to the next area, open the item box, and there's just, here's all your gear. The reason they try to circumvent that by giving you a second player controlled character. But they only have 6 item slots. You only have 6 item slots. You can carry 12 items. But obviously throughout the game, it's a Resident Evil game, you get infinitely more than 12 items.
Yeah.
And there'll be items that you get at the start of the game that you need to use again further down the line. So then you're having to go back to the first area, picking up that grappling hook, just to go back to the end area and use said grappling hook. So Resident Evil 0 was pretty rough. To date, it's the only Resident Evil game that I haven't completed. Just because I get to a certain point and just think, fuck it. This is not worth it. I'll just watch the video on YouTube.
Yeah, watch the end credits on you, or watch the end scene on YouTube and go, oh, that's how everybody died.
Yeah, well, that's how everyone got it. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, I can't imagine that's going down well. But I can see Capcom wanting to redo 4 in this new art style, as opposed to redoing Resident Evil 1 remake, because, well, A, they've already remade the game, and B, that is widely regarded as probably one of the best remade games of all time. It still sells copies to this day.
Really?
So,
that's kind of. I guess they just want to do 4 because it started the new generation of Resident Evil fans.
Yeah, and I can also see them wanting to do something with old Leon again, like older Leon after Raccoon City. Because in Resident Evil 2, Leon's about 18, maybe 20.
Right.
So, like, in Resident Evil 4, Leon, he's a bit older, he's a black belt, he can suplex zombies and shit like that, or infected as they are in Resident Evil 4.
Suplex. Okay, right. That works well in a biohazard situation.
Dude, Resident Evil 4 is a fucking fantastic game. Probably one of the best Resident Evil games of all time. And I can see that's why they want to update it, because Resident Evil 4, they sacrificed a lot for gameplay, so the graphics are one.
But if you bring it now with the digital distribution, no real limit on disc size, the way that it was back in the day, especially when that came, was it not on GameCube or something like that?
Resident Evil 4 was originally meant to be a GameCube exclusive, but then PlayStation, Sony pissed and moaned, and then Capcom just went, sure, we'll bring it out on a PlayStation 2.
Yeah, because GameCube had like a disc that was like half the size of a PlayStation 2 disc.
Yeah, but the PlayStation 2 also suffered greatly in the loading speed. It had less RAM than GameCube and even Xbox original. So PlayStation 2 was kind of the console that proved it was all about the games on the platform as opposed to specs and hardware. Because GameCube is my personal favourite, but I think PS2 owns it. Because there's just so many fucking good games on PlayStation 2. Whereas on GameCube, there's maybe 15 to 20 games that I would say, I need to get that, I need to get that.
Yeah, and the best thing about the GameCube, or the PS2 catalogue, was there was a lot of great games. There was a lot of decent games. There was a lot of games that you could just throw on for like a half an hour, or a lot of games you could just play in the weekend. And I think people have forgotten that like the the mass production of games, or the availability of a lot of games, is what sells a lot of people on a console or like a title.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Resident Evil 3, with the Resident Evil 4
Resident
coming
Evil-
out.
Sorry.
So I'd say Resident Evil 3 with the Resident Evil 4 coming out. Would you recommend people pick it up?
Yeah, I'll recommend that people pick up Resident Evil 3, but I'll give it a proper review before people do. I'd recommend if you like Resident Evil 2 remake, definitely pick up 3, because despite what I'm about to say about it, it is still worth getting. It's still a really good game. The redesigns for the main characters are pretty fucking cool. They've actually made Carlos a likable character instead of this weird kind of oddball Latino guy that he was in the original game.
Right.
And it was they've actually made him, more of a part of the story. He actually is out there helping Jill instead of just showing up at random points. And the way they handle the pacing of the game is, I think, what puts a lot of people off, because, like I said when I was talking about the demo, it is quite a lot of you start here in Jill's apartment. Next thing you know, Nemesis is busting down the wall. Next thing you know, he's pushing you through a corridor with a giant rock and the corridor's on fire. You jump out a window, it then grabs your head and throws you in another fiery corridor, and you just need to keep going throughout this thing. You stop for a minute, you keep going, you get up to a rooftop, you shoot him a couple times, then you drive into a car, or you drive a car into him, then you drive him off a roof. He then throws the car away, gets back up, runs towards you. Then you start playing the rest of the game because you've run away from him into a subway station. Then the game just picks up from there. And then you get maybe a 10-15 minute segment where you're just, dealing with regular zombies, figuring out what next to do, then Nemesis appears again.
That's it's a weird way of pacing the game. But yeah, I mean, having a constant antagonist who is actively pursuing you.
He's not that constant an antagonist.
All right.
Which is disappointing. I was expecting Mr. X levels of constantly being tailed, but there's certain points where he shows up. But other than that, he doesn't really show up all that much. I feel that he's very underutilized. I was expecting this kind of adaptive difficulty type monster where he knows you're going to show it at this point, so he's going to trap that area, or he's going to put something there, and he's going to, try and trap you that way, try and get you that way. But the most you really see of that is he starts using the other enemies in the to kind of act as speed bumps for you, because he enhances the other enemies so they can deal more damage and shit like that, which is pretty cool. And he does this thing of he knows where the exits are, so if you think you've got away from him, he'll appear at the door at the other side and just grab you there.
That is hilarious. I like the sound of that.
It is pretty good. Like I'm saying, it may sound like I hate the game, but it's far from it. I just kind of wish they did more with it. I personally wanted, because Mr. X, like I said in my Resident Evil 2 review, genuinely gave me fucking nightmares because that guy is relentless. Nemesis seems to relent a bit too quickly, but then he picks you back up straight away. It's like, oh, you thought you got away? I got you now. But I wanted someone to just stalk you constantly, never let you go, and it's disappointing in that respect. But still, the boss fights in that game will probably make up for it, because you fight Nemesis quite a few times. You fight him on the roof with a flamethrower strapped to his back. Then you fight him again when he mutates.
Right.
Which is a pretty cool fight.
How about other enemies in the game? You said there's lickers, right?
Not in this one. In this one, they're replaced with a thing called a hunter, which is this kind of big amphibian thing, mutated from frogs or some shit, I believe. And those are tough bastards. Like, they're easy to kill if you get the sweet spot, but if you don't, they catch you in this 3-hit combo that just drains your health. Oh. And that is just a pain in the ass to avoid, because they show up in areas with tight corridors, and there's usually other creatures behind you that you need to deal with.
Yeah, I think that sounds like it's a good enemy for like a good level designer. Like if you know what you're doing with it, you can make an interesting scenario. But if you're just like spamming that enemy into every situation possible, it's going to get real tiresome.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of gets a bit tiresome is well, not tiresome. It's something that I wasn't expecting, but I didn't like. It was what they did with Nemesis. Because in the first game, he stalks you for pretty much, or I say the first version of the game, he stalks you for a good portion of the game. And then, only after a while does he start mutating. And this one, it kind of feels like you fight him a couple times, then he mutates almost immediately. And you're just thinking, did they need to push that through so quickly?
Yeah,
You could have left it a bit longer.
surely that,
Maybe
like,
back the game a bit.
the idea that you could fight this thing and think you're finally getting the hand on it, and then all of a sudden at the end it flips a switch and, oh, you're fighting something completely different now. That's a great gaming moment that you could leave till the end of the game.
Yeah, and it has a couple of mutations towards the end of the game, which are pretty cool, like, really cool fights. But just how he goes from this golem looking creature to just this weird quadrupedal creature fairly quickly, and just thinking that you could have eked that out a little bit. It would have felt like padding, but it would have made the game flow a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I remember they had like bigger ideas for the quadruped version, and wanted to try and get into that a lot faster, and then
Maybe.
just didn't get to pull it off.
Maybe, because it was based on old designs for Nemesis that got cut from the original game. So it's not like they've just decided this would be cool, let's put that in. They just think, no, this has got actual basis in a game, so let's do that.
That's one thing I'm curious about with these remakes. How many of the original directors, obviously not everyone who's on the OG team can be there, but how many times do you get somebody like a director or music composition like staff coming back for these remakes, or is this entirely new teams?
Most of them are entirely new teams, mostly because the people that made the originals are now either not in the industry anymore or are part of what the hell's the company? Platinum. Because the person who made Resident Evil 2, what the hell's his name? Glasses. Hideki Kamiya. He's he's the lead designer or something for Platinum Games. He served as a consultant for the original Resident Evil 2, or for the remake Resident Evil 2, but wasn't actively part of the design process. And then Resident Evil 3, I don't even think they contacted Shinji Mikami because, well, he said pretty much verbatim that he doesn't want much to do with Capcom anymore.
Right.
So
That's a weird one.
there was a whole thing to do with Shinji Mikami and Capcom. Basically, he wanted to take Resident Evil in another direction and tried to put the foot down.
And they said, no, you're going to do what we tell you. We're the ones with the fucking money. Get in line. Yeah. It's a weird thing. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, it's definitely something they could have been a bit more in touch with, but at the same time, if these people aren't willing to come back, or they've got other things on, or they've moved on from the series and Capcom have the rights to make the game, maybe just give them a nod and make the game. Like, I don't really see the point in going back and saying, hey, we're going to remake this game. Do you want to check this out?
Yeah, if no one's going to agree to like jump on board, and if they were against it in the first place, there's no way they're coming back to help with the remake.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But moving on from the pacing and Nemesis, I think one of the other parts that bugged me about the game was the fact that the game ends in yet another lab sequence. Because in Resident Evil 2, you go from the police station to like the streets of Raccoon City, then you find an underground lab, an underground Umbrella laboratory. And Resident Evil 3, they do the same thing again. You go from one area to the other. Next thing you know, you're in the Umbrella facility that's called the Nest 2.
Right.
Which is also, in Resident Evil 2 remake, you go to the Nest. So it kind of feels like Resident Evil 2 worked, and it worked well. And it ended with the Nest. Let's go Resident Evil 3 and go to the Nest 2. And then it's just...
Yeah, it feels like they just took a working idea and just carried it over just because they knew it would work. And it is a good way of ending these. Not let the Resident Evil franchises end up with loads of underground bases. I don't know how Umbrella gets the planning permission for these ones. But like they just have all these underground bases all over the place. But it seems cheap to just call it the thing from the previous one too. Yeah,
the sequel. And I kind of thought it would have been cool as if he did the same thing from Resident Evil 3, the original. As if you stay in Raccoon City, you go to facilities that are just in Raccoon City, then you use equipment that you find from these locations to kill Final Form Nemesis.
Yeah, I think it's the fact it's an underground base. Like every one of these really needs to be underground. Nobody just kind of rented out a building and just converted it over. Just it seems a bit cheap.
Oh yeah, it's very cheap. But that's what kind of makes a lot of people think that Resident Evil 3 was rushed, because instead of taking the time to do the final area, which I think is called the Dead Factory,
Right.
because it's just a factory full of zombies. So I don't know I don't know why it's called the Dead Factory, but the final area is called the Dead Factory. And instead of taking the time to do that, they've just kind of went, here's another lab.
Huh.
Fuck it, here's another lab. We're going to give you Resident Evil 4 in about a year's time, so fuck it.
Expect the lab number 3 in that one.
Yeah, probably. If you get Resident Evil 4, we're probably going to get the Umbrella facility on the island, despite the fact that Resident Evil 4 has fuck all to do with Umbrella. Despite the fact that one of the characters is working for kind of Umbrella.
Welcome Resident Evil
Umbrella
4.
Light.
Welcome Resident Evil 4. We have the Nest 3 in Espanol.
Ernesto.
Hola.
Me llamo Ernesto.
Oh, that's...
Resident Evil 3, fun game, good solid 8 out of 10, good characters, good gameplay, rushed design. And on higher difficulty levels, it will test your patience, it will test your dexterity. You will want to throw the game out the window several times, because the final boss requires frame perfect dodges.
Right.
That you can't just mash your way through the dodge mechanics, it needs to be bang on every time. If you're trying to dodge Nemesis, like final form Nemesis' swipes, it needs to be like 1, 2, 3. You can't just mash it out. It needs to be very sequenced.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you're putting that the high level play, that's fine.
It's very bad.
Right.
It's not been tested. Like, if you make one misstep, it's very unforgiving. You get caught in a combo, you're just dead. You get no chance to mash out of it. You're just straight up dead.
But I mean, if you're keeping that at the higher level play, like if that was at the basic, like the standard, or even like the hard level play, that'd be pretty unforgivable. But if you put that at like the top tier level of gameplay and say, if you fuck up once on this final boss, you will get your ass handed to you. I think that's pretty
I
good.
can see that. That might be a bit of a silver lining, but at the same time, I just thought it was kind of lazy. Like, you make one slight misstep, you have to know every single move that he does. You need to be aware of every single twitch, and you need to be aware of the timings. I just thought it was a bit too much for... I get it's the second hardest difficulty in the game. It's still just a wee bit too much. It smacked as something that was maybe not really tested all that well.
Maybe I like the sound of that, because Dark Souls fan.
Yeah, true.
Glutton for the punishment.
And from what I've seen, there's a lot of Dark Souls players that are just thinking this is not good. Like, this is bad. The reviewers who got the game early never tested part of the game.
Aye. I don't really trust many reviewers when it comes to like a big game with multiple levels of difficulty. They normally just run through it on the medium, and then just say, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's good. It brings back the memories. Nostalgia, tick that box, and just I'm done with it. I've done my playthrough, done my due diligence. Nobody would actually take the time to play through on the hardest mode, go all the way through the end, and then realize, you can get your shit pushed in.
Yeah, since I started reading, I stopped reading reviews a good while ago. I only occasionally go back to them if I want to laugh, because some of them are very, very funny. Like the review that I read for Avengers Endgame, and I mean, Avengers Endgame is probably one of the most universally liked movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
People fucking love that movie, and this guy was just going, "It's boring, utterly trash. No one should listen to this." It's like it's like Michael Bay got his scripts mixed up.
Here's the thing though, like,
It's not.
There's not a lot. If you weren't aware of that franchise, if somehow you got through to the end, like you watched the final film of that franchise arc, and then you stepped in there, like, if you just were trying to review it objectively, you could quite easily say it's not a good movie. But you gotta understand, yeah. But as I was saying, is like, if you're with it from Iron Man 1, and you follow all the arcs through to the end, everything makes sense to you, and everything works, and it works as part of a bigger unit. But I don't know anyone who has not seen the Avengers films then just walk straight into Endgame.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That one critic must have either hated every single comic book movie that he's ever watched, or he's just gotten to that point where he's seen so many of them, he's just thinking, this one will be shit, don't care, fucking hate them all.
Actually, can I ask you about the footage that came out at the weekend recently, or actually earlier during the week? That's the problem. Days mean nothing now. But during the week,
mean nothing. Time is just blended.
We just mark time by the passage of Twitter trends. Twitter trends. Jesus Christ, the words are failing as well. This is bad.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
But we actually had a Twitter trend this week, and it was someone that had audio from inside Avengers screenings, and it was like the day one audio interaction to the portal scene, where the gates open up at the end, and like stuff like Iron Man, like Thor, realizing that Captain America can hold the hammer. And,
that bit I remember being in the cinema, and I was there with my brother and Argic and another guy that he only goes by one name. He doesn't have a screen name, so I'm not going to name him.
Yeah.
And everyone else is going like, "Holy shit, Captain America can lift a hammer. He's fucking worthy." Like, even people that weren't reacting, going, "Yeah, fuck yeah, we're just going. That's pretty cool." Like, I was grinning from ear to ear. One of the people that I went with just went fucking lame. Dude, come on.
Well,
it's cool as shit, and it's a payoff.
One thing I found interesting was this was an American audience, and when all these scenes kick off, the noise in the cinema is, as a British person, frankly, unacceptable. I don't know if you'd seen that clip.
You can tell that if there's like even not even an older British man in there, say like a 35 to 40-year-old British man, he would have just been telling people, like, quiet down, like, just that's enough, calm down. We're all seeing this together. There's no need for all this ruckus.
Gentlemen, some decorum, please.
Please, gentlemen, decorum, calm down.
I saw that footage and I was like, this, just as a cinema goer in the UK, is I can't stand it. The idea of being in the room while everyone is verbally losing their shit and cheering, like the amount of cheering, like genuine kind of like whoops of ecstatic joy at this on-screen moment. I actually couldn't process it. I was like, you people do this? Like, for real, you people do this in public?
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example of how different the two viewing experiences are. I went to see, I think it was the last Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker, in a cinema in Livingston, and there was a group of what we used to call scene kids.
Right, the emos and the teeny
boppers. The
emos,
the scene kids, the My Chemical Romance Fall Out Boy freak shows. There was a group of them sitting down in front of me on the left, right near the stairs, and they were just having like a great time. They were just giggling their heads off, laughing, talking amongst themselves, shouting. One of them was playing something on their fucking phone, and this kept going on for about 10-15 minutes throughout the film, and eventually it just got to one point I went, shut the fuck up.
You're in a cinema. Look at the screen, shut your mouth, enjoy it.
You're not the only person in the room, just shut the hell up and watch.
Yeah, that's one thing where it's just kids who are never told to just shut the fuck up. And you go into a room where it seems like the general agreement is we all sit down together, we all shut the fuck up. If something happens that's mind-blowing, we'll have some reaction to it. But in general, the idea is we go into the room, we go into the dark room, nobody talks to each other, and we just watch the shiny image on the screen.
Yeah, we sit down. I'll even let you clap if it's a really good film. Because I heard people in cinemas in Glasgow were clapping at the end of Joker. I don't mind you clapping. That's civilised. That's fine.
That seems like something so pretentious only Edinburgh would do it, but okay.
That was Glasgow, actually. It was Glasgow. Yeah. That's I heard about. There were some people on a group chat that I'm on said they went to see it and people were just clapping away because they were happy at the way the movie ended.
Such cinema.
Yes, highbrow cinema coming from Todd Phillips, young Master Phillips, in his Joker movie.
What else is there? I forgot. I totally lost the train of thought after the Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the deleted footage of Black Widow's original death?
No.
That is brutal. Like, it's not the case of where she, in their final cut of the movie, she decides, I'm going to take this hit. Hawkeye's going to live. He's got the family, what have you.
Yeah.
And they kind of have this weird wrestle match, this weird like fight to do the ultimate sacrifice.
It's an interesting fight because it's so strange that you know how this is going to end. One of you has to go over the cliff, and I don't want either of you really to go, but at the same time, like, watching them try to fight to kill themselves is really, really weird.
Yeah, it was a good scene as well because you get the Hawkeye's kind of feeling a bit repentant considering the fact he's done nothing but kill people for 5 years, and Black Widow was just thinking, well, she's the one without any ties. She has to do this. This is what she's been going towards. It's a good scene in that sense.
Red in her ledger, and she has to even it out somehow.
Yeah, she's got to do the ultimate good to get rid of all like you said, the red in the ledger. But the original scene that they were going to go with was that Thanos and the what are his outriders, his army show up to Vormir to try and get the Soul Stone, and they just start this all-out battle. Black Widow and Hawkeye are just shooting, stabbing, dealing with all these outriders, and then Black Widow says, "We need to get the stone out of here." So she runs towards it. She gets shot in the back, shot in the shoulder, and then she just takes out a couple of them, does some martial arts to them, and just keeps walking towards it. She's getting lit up as she's running towards them, and eventually she just jumps off, and then Hawkeye just kind of does the whole pan towards where she was, and does that kind of heartbreak moment of where the fuck are you?
Huh.
Like, dude, it's fairly brutal considering what they went with.
I
I
thought
can see
when you
why
said
they
it was going to
didn't
be
go
like,
with that one.
yeah, well, like you said, it was brutal. I was expecting them to, really show what happens when you drop a body like, what is it, 400 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would, I was expecting like that, but the idea that Thanos shows up and ambushes them, wow. Okay, I would have deleted that as well. There's very few times I
it's
would
just
say, take lesser action and show that, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just the fact that I think she gets lit up before it. Like, she's getting shot all the way down and she's getting stabbed by outriders. Maybe they thought, right, let's not add, insult to injury here. Let's just not have her beaten up before she takes the ultimate sacrifice.
I don't know. I mean, she's such an empowering character. It'd be interesting to see if they did that. And I'm guessing it just didn't test well in screenings because it was probably a bit of a mess. I mean, that scene, actually, the way we saw it was still quite a mess, actually, when I think about it. I'm pretty sure most of that fight was slow-mo. Like, there was a lot of slowed down footage. And I don't know if that was to pad it out.
Slow mo. I didn't see it as slow mo. I just seen it as the two of them, like master assassins, just trying to get the one up in each other. And maybe that's why it was a bit slow.
I've not seen it in a
Either
while.
way,
Might be time for a rewatch. Might be time for something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've got time.
Yeah,
We have time.
we do have time. And with that time came time for documentaries. And I don't know if I know you've already got a strong opinion on one of these, but we've actually been asked by fans and friends of the show to talk about Tiger King. Now, I watched this all the way through. I watched it out on the day it came out, which was great. Stayed up to about 3 o'clock in the morning, and ended up with like burst blood vessels in all my eyes. Just, I don't know what it was. Just, I was awake for like, I think 24, 25 hours or something like that at that point. And so at a certain point, your body's like, go to bed, and you're like, nah, I'll be fine. You wake up the next morning with just like a red eye. It's great.
It's probably the sheer stupidity of Tiger King
Yeah.
that made you go all bleary eyed.
I was hoping for, I walked in this hoping for a discussion about the ethics of owning exotic animals, because it's a weird subject that, yeah, we have cats and we have dogs and these are acceptable pets, but what about the people who have a fucking tiger? That'd be an interesting documentary. It is not that. I've said it was like watching a fusion of Jerry Springer and The Office, where there's just a lot of like honest 2-camera explanations of what you just saw, because it doesn't make sense in the context of normal people. But you got to realize that everyone in this documentary is not a normal person. They're people who actively choose to go to work every day with a tiger. And yeah, like I've had people say they don't get the hype. Yeah, understandable. I think it came out at the right time, like just as lockdown's happening. Joe Exotic is a fucking meme machine. Like, everything he says is hilariously quotable. He's just an idiot who just stumbles from like tragedy to tragedy and just thinks he can get the best out of the situation. And
I've seen a lot of people, with it, because I'm guessing he's in prison.
yes, if we're going to talk spoilers of this, yeah, sure, he's in prison at the end of it.
Oh, sorry, yeah, because all the memes that I've seen are just free Joe Exotic, free the Tiger King, all that shit.
Free Tiger King and fuck Carol Baskin.
Yeah,
It's a strange. It just came at the right time to be exactly front and center of pop culture, and that's why you've not seen it. But I guarantee you probably know 90% of the plot.
yeah,
And
something to do with somebody's husband getting fed to tigers.
yeah, that's Carol Baskin's husband. There's allegations going between Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin, who run rival tiger sanctuaries, that Carol Baskin murdered her husband and then decided to feed him to the tigers to cover up the evidence. Which, I mean, is possible. There's people saying, "Oh, no way a tiger could eat a person." Could they not?
Sure it could.
Yeah, I'd give the money to the tiger at that point. But yeah, Joe Exotic's a weird, interesting character, and you're watching it for him. You're watching to see this like meth-fueled, accident-prone meme machine just wander through life and just following him for a couple months at a time. Like, if you try and write down the plot points of this story and you try to hand it in as a movie that you want somebody to make, you'd be laughed at there, and people were like, there's no way this would all happen to one guy. This is an unsellable, ridiculous story, but this is just this guy's life. And he recorded so much of it that most of the footage that they have is from his personal archive during a certain time, because they're actually filming a previous kind of reality TV show / documentary on him anyway, and all of that gets lost in the fire. And that's at like episode 3. And all the footage that they have from before is stuff that he was filming anyway, because he was just obsessed with being a star. And at one point he starts off as like a stage magician, and he's like doing these shows in malls, and then realizes that he can bring tigers to the mall if he gets a permit, and he can bring tigers, and the kids want to see the tigers, so they show up for the stage show, and he just starts increasing this insanity that just ends up with a US presidential run.
Yeah, it does seem like this guy is suffering from some kind of delusions of grandeur. Like, there's something. There's the whole feeling I get from just even watching clips of it is, to quote every single Scottish person, that at some point in their life, there's just something not right about that boy.
Yeah, and
there's something a wee bit off.
His serious drug addiction is pretty obvious. Like, there's just something's off about him the entire time. And I think part of what his issues stem from is the fact that he came out as gay at the age of 13, and his parents completely disowned him. Like, I think the quote is that his father made his mother witness as, they shook hands, and Joe Exotic had to agree to never show up to his parents' funerals because they were ashamed of him for being gay. So you can tell that kid has been fucked since the age of 13. Like, he has never felt comfortable.
Nationality is Joe Exotic?
Nationality is American.
That's not what. Where's he from? What town?
Oh, fuck. It's a southern state, and I can't remember. I think there's part of his life is in Texas, and then part of it's in, like, Connecticut and Alabama and stuff. Like, he's been around, like, the southeast coast.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, old school Christian southern values.
Yeah, good old-fashioned Bible Belt, good old boys and girls. Don't exactly take kindly to a young kid coming out as gay. And you can tell that he's always just wanted to be the centre of attention, and just as soon as you just lose that connection with your family, you're down a weird, dark rabbit hole.
It does sound interesting from that point, but there's just certain aspects of the documentary that just don't appeal to me. Like, I think I'm just not a fan of documentaries like that. Like, there was all the Louis Theroux type documentaries, which is, we're going to interview a bunch of guys that believe that people should have guns sewn to them.
Yeah,
I don't want to see that.
It's the problem is, like, it's being framed as like a documentary, but it is just trashy TV. Like, this is Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but with tigers and meth involved. And I enjoyed it, I really do, and I love talking about it to different people, because you remember more and more of what you just watched, and you go, yeah, there was an entire part where one of his boyfriends or husbands killed himself. And there was another part where the other husband ran away, because he's in a gay polygamous marriage, by the way, which is a brave move in a southern state. But he, like, one of the husbands like, yeah, I'm not gay.
He has a zoo filled with tigers. I doubt anyone's going to really mess with him.
I've been trying to sell I've been trying to get other people to watch it in my family, and I unfortunately made the mistake of saying that in episode 1, there is a discussion about a previous guy who owned tigers and ended up killing himself, and then but he let loose all the animals, then blew his brains out or something like that, and then just the animals had to be rounded up and shot, because they're not real animals. They can't be given off to a zoo, and they're all fucked up anyway, because he wasn't really treating them that well. But I forgot, I mentioned that to my brother. He's like, I can't watch that. My fiance's going to freak out. Like, she's not going to be okay with like dead animals and dead tigers and stuff on the TV. I'm like, it's 30 seconds of dead animals, you'll be fine. And you guys, oh wait, what did I just say out loud? I'm a bad person now.
Yeah, I'll still probably give Tiger King a miss. It's not on my to-do list. It's not in my. It's not the kind of show that's in my wheelhouse.
I mean, I'd recommend it, but I've seen like almost every episode of Jerry Springer ever made, so I mean,
Yeah.
I just love trash, to be honest. And if that's your type of thing, Tiger King is the shit show for you, because it is really a shit show. The one I want to talk about was How to Fix a Drug Scandal, which I thought would be much more up your alley. I think we talked about Tiger King, and you were initially like, hell no, fuck that.
Yeah.
But this seemed more something you've been interested in, because it's to do with criminal prosecutions. And this is a story of two chemists in labs in Massachusetts in the United States that fucked up about 70,000 cases over the course of 10 years, which is really
Excuse me? Say that one more time.
is the story of two chemists in drug labs that were testing like drugs confiscated from people when they get arrested that fucked up about 70,000 cases in Massachusetts over the course of 10 years.
It's surprising that those guys still even have jobs.
So there's the first chemist, Annie Dukin. She was cutting corners. She was doing what's called dry labbing. So she'd have cases assigned to her by the lab manager, and she would look at 10 cases that were all cocaine. She'd bring them all out of storage at the same time, do the first one, do the testing required, and then look at the bags and say, yep, they all look like cocaine. And she'd mark all 10 tests as positive for cocaine, but she would only do the first one. So she cut corners on every test that she ever did. So she gets absolutely fucked. The second story is the one that I found much more hilarious, which is a girl called Sonia Farrick. She basically started getting high in the lab. She was using the drugs and actually some of the chemical national standards that they had in the lab to get high during work hours.
Okay.
So with most chemistry testing, there's what's called a standard, which is a perfect chemical example of what you're looking for. So in this lab, they had the chemical standard for methamphetamine, and she was taking spatulas or droppers, taking some of the standard out and taking it herself. She was microdosing methamphetamine. It's fucking outrageous, because she was doing these interviews and saying, she was caught. Eventually she was caught because somebody got suspicious and looked in her bench, her workstation, and was like, there's cocaine in here and crack cocaine, and there's all these uppers in your desk drawer. And then they called the police, who then had to try and investigate their own lab. And there's all these prosecutors and politicians on the phone what did you just say is happening in a national lab? There's somebody taking the drugs they're supposed to be testing. And there's all these back and forth conversations, and she admits, yeah, I've been taking meth for the last 6 months, and I moved on to cocaine, and now I've been cooking my own crack cocaine in the lab. That escalated real quickly. And
that's like going from beer to just straight ethanol.
And people got suspicious, and it was actually a bunch of defense attorneys got involved. And you don't just start playing around with meth. You have to be, especially at 8 years. She's 7 years into her career, and she starts, tinkering with meth. That isn't right. So they go back to try and get her, or try and flip all the cases that she prosecuted, and say, look, you fucked up. If you admit to how bad you fucked up, we'll give you immunity from the fuck up. Because she's already in jail at this point. She's served a 3-year sentence for it. When she gets out, the defense attorneys start talking to her about revealing the extent of the damage she's done. She gets immunity and says, actually, I've been doing drugs from the lab, in the lab, for about 8 years now. Almost 3 months into her job, she started just trying drugs at random. And admitted to not only making crack cocaine in the lab, but doing crack cocaine in the evidence locker, where they store the samples that they're testing. It is the most batshit story of drug abuse I've ever heard, and it's outrageous. It's
genuinely don't even know where to begin with that one. Jesus.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to go through and unpack there. Not only just from the defense attorneys' standpoints, that the amount of effort that they have to go through to fight politicians and police chiefs and judges to try and get this to happen. These are senior lawyers for the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union. These are the guys that every time Trump mouths off about Latinos and stuff, these are the guys that sue the president. These are hard-hitting, organized lawyers that specialize in civil cases. and they're struggling to fight Massachusetts state government to get these cases overturned. And they have to start like probing and investigating, and it keeps getting worse every time they find new information. It's impressive, like, dedication to the cause. That you can see these guys actually care about potential clients and various like people they've come across, and that like they know that there's something wrong with the people doing the testing, and they have like a little bit of respect for them in a way. Like they can understand and appreciate that people are going through hard times and need a little bit of a boost. And meth is a hell of a boost to certain people, and they just. So as much as these guys have, like these defense attorneys have sympathy for the people they're working with, they realize that they're all just human, and that all it takes is one bad day and you're in front of a judge. They realize that they're dealing with their enemies effectively, but just have to be critical of the system to try and find justice for these guys, because there's 70,000 people like each case. I think I did some vague math and I was like, okay, 70,000 cases total, assuming that there's quite a few repeat offenders. That's maybe like 40,000 lives that these people have affected by being bad chemists or just not following their ethical obligations to actually do their jobs. And I think everyone's just kind of aware of that, and they're very quick to point out that like this might, in certain cases, they still do choose to do the meth on the job. I mean, at one point, the girl admits to one of the key cases of it actually is that she does LSD at work. And she's like, oh god, I took too much. Runs to the bathroom to have the trip on the LSD, on the acid, and is like freaking out in the bathroom and is like on the ground, like going through a psychedelic trip. And then she like decides to go back to her workstation and keep trying to do work afterwards. And it just so happens that she works on a guy's case that day. That's one of the cases the prosecutor or the defense attorney are coming back to investigate years later, and she admits, I was not in any way capable of doing my job that day. It's a weird story, but I'd highly recommend it to people.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like whatever prosecutor got that case today probably just thought, well, this is going to be over quickly. This is just going to be a cut and dry case.
It's there's a lot of people who get involved in it, and it's all to do with the like US state or like US legal system, and you're like, this is all built on like a house of cards, and that someone has now just like dropped dynamite into the middle of the structure.
Someone's just dropped an unpinned hand grenade in there and just went, deal with that. Bye bye.
Good luck. I mean, they have to when the defense attorneys come back to try and like get the cases overturned. The judges are like, no, we need to do this case by case to determine like how many people this affects. We can't just wipe the slate clean for everyone that they signed for. And like, no, you have to. Like our court system can't take processing all these court cases, because they start off with one of the cases and it's like, oh, she did, I think it's the girl who did meth, and they're like, oh, she did 25,000 cases by herself. Or she's the signature on 25,000 chemistry reports for these drug cases, and there's no way that we can prosecute that. And then remember, coming down the line in like 6 months when she gets out of prison, we're going to go through this all again with Annie Dukin. So you're going to have another 45,000 cases to prosecute or to like re-prosecute. Massachusetts cannot take this hit. Just write in legislation that lets us flip all the cases over to like not guilty, and or basically not proven, or whatever the term is. But they have to get it.
Well,
they have to like fight that all the way through the courts.
Yeah. What country is this taking place in?
This is Massachusetts in the United States.
Yeah, they don't have the not proven verdict. That's a unique Scottish thing only. It's either guilty or not guilty. Not proven, that's a Scottish thing.
Oh, so they would have had to flip it over to not guilty, which I mean nobody's going to be happy about. And there's actually a funny clip of one of the defense attorneys. He gets, obviously they're doing discovery for the case. He finds emails from people like around the time that they're actually doing the discovery, where they're complaining about this guy going back and doing all this digging and causing so much hassle for them, because obviously this is a ton of work for these guys, or for the guys who are prosecuting the case and all the police chiefs, the the prosecuting attorneys of the cases back in the day, and they're obviously chatting shit about him, and he seems quite upset about the fact that people don't like him. It's like, dude, do you realise how much fucking work you're causing for all these people? I'd hate you too. I'd be fucking livid if I saw your face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can imagine that if that person gets seen at any point, and the person had to work in the legal side, there's just going to be like kind of invasion of the body snatchers type moment where, you know, Donald Sutherland just goes, you. I had to do 6 days worth of fucking paperwork.
Oh, it's an interesting documentary. It shows a lot of like frailty in the legal system. I mean, yeah, it's in the US, but I mean, it's not that impossible to imagine it happening here in the UK.
Yeah.
Or anywhere, really, for that matter.
I mean, curiosity is always going to be a thing. It's people are going to, you know, if something's presented in front of them, they're always going to have that, why not? And then that just kind of snowballs. So it's not hard to imagine that could happen over here.
I did try and recommend it to guys I work with, just to say, look, if you ever wonder how bad an ethical misstep could go, I mean, Annie Dukin's case, you could just, I said, look, we're not chemists, this is not the type of work we do, but this is possibly one of the worst case scenarios for an ethical fuck up in science I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Especially with
Like,
lives on the line.
Walter White, there's never been a fuck up of this degree.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. It's the Walter White of of the drug testing world. It's like, this escalated quickly, and I'm going to put all the blame on you. You can't walk away from this one.
Yeah.
So I mean, the documentary got overshadowed by Tiger King, and I hope more people see it. And you know, if you're listening to this, I'd recommend it to you if you're inquisitive enough about people abusing drugs. It's worth a watch. I mean, you got plenty. Of free time.
I'll look in it. Got plenty of time to do it, so I'll probably stick it on in the background when I'm doing some studying or some crap like that. But something that has just become, or that's been made or pointed out to me, is the fact that there's been another celebrity testing positive for COVID-19, and it is Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
The man's immortal. He's not going to die. He'll be fine.
Yeah, if the virus kills him, I will start to worry.
60 years of cocaine has not killed that man.
That's when I will start to worry.
Yeah. It's supposed to be him and the cockroaches after the nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah, him, Chuck Norris, and the cockroaches.
I know, you see some videos of Chuck or stuff he does now, you're like, oh boy, you not holding up there, champ, I'll be honest.
I mean, how old is Chuck Norris now? He must be in 80s or something now.
Ooh, dare we Google it? Chuck Norris. Fun enough, Chuck Norris is not the first thing that comes up when you say Chuck. On Google, anyway.
What is it, Chuck the TV show?
He, by the way, is 80. The first answer for Chuck was Chuck Berry.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Johnny B. Good's pretty good songs.
So, yeah, Chuck Norris is 80. So, but Keith Richards, Godspeed, my friend. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure the virus is far more scared of Keith Richards than Keith Richards is scared of the virus.
The virus is scared of Keith Richards. Yeah, I mean, what is...
If the virus could form a body and escape, you could probably see it in real time. Fuck that, I'm out of here. Keith's just like, get back here, pussy.
See, now I'm worried, because one thing that's quite, I'm going to say good about this virus is that as far as we can tell, there hasn't been any, like, mutation. Like, it's stayed consistent no matter where it's gone, which is a good thing, because it makes it easier to, like, build an antidote for, or build a vaccine for, because it maintains a consistent form. I'm worried what's going to happen when that thing comes out of Keith Richards. If that thing, like, gets processed by his body and still survives, it's going to come out with a whole extra array of, like, serious issues that it'll pass on to the next person.
It won't mutate in any way, shape, or form. It'll just come out with a blinding hangover. Because I'm pretty sure Keith Richards' blood is 90% alcohol at this point.
If you're lucky.
Alcohol and other substances.
Alcohol and various substances. I wanted to actually bring up a horror movie for you.
Yeah, is this the platform?
Yes.
Yeah, Facebook has been saying that this is one of those films that you should watch alone. You shouldn't watch with the lights off, and you shouldn't watch while you're eating because you'll feel fucking sick or something like that. The
Uh,
last film that I was told about like that was The Witch, and The Witch was an awful movie. I did
can't
not
remember
like
what
that
which
movie.
was. Oh, was that the Vivitch?
The Vivitch, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I just heard bad things about it. Actually, the
It's not great.
the eating one for this, I would say, yeah, I wouldn't eat while watching this because it is a lot of this film is to do with food. The platform is a Spanish sci-fi horror movie that is set in a vertical prison. The key concept being that everyone is set on a floor, and you have a cellmate that is also there with you on the same floor. And at one point during the day, a platform comes down through a hole in the center of the room and delivers you a thing of food. Now, the issue is that the platform goes from the top all the way down to the bottom, one floor at a time. You've got like 60 seconds to feed yourself, and then the platform moves down another level. So,
All right.
the thing is that it's only one set of food. So if you're on floor number 1, you get all the food, it's all fresh, and you can just gorge yourself. You'll be fine. However, obviously, as that goes down, every layer, more and more food disappears, and by the time you get down to like floor 50 or 60, there's going to be next to nothing left on the platform. And you're going to be stuck on your level for a month. Now, you could, in theory, climb up or down, but that's not going to happen because this is prison, and everyone's scared, so nobody's going to let you up on their level to eat food with them. And, I think it's probably one of the most uncomfortable movies I've ever watched. Like, there's something about this. I'm just waiting for it to explode into violence at any given point. It does. It really fucking does. But this film is really, really effective at making you feel trapped in there with the characters. It's a really fucking great film. But the whole, like, the setup of it, the science fiction nature, the whole thing about the like starving people of resources, and then just the fact that, you know, they're obviously talking about stuff like capitalism and like limited resources of the planet, as well as just general food and, you know, how we treat the poor, the people on the lower rungs of society. It's great metaphors all the way through, and it's a great it's one that you'll be stuck with, and you're gonna have to think about it for a while afterwards. But saying it's not one to watch with the lights off, fuck off.
I mean, it kind of ruins though. If you're watching a horror movie with the lights on, do you even really need to watch a horror film?
You're just a scared person.
Yeah, a lot of the experience of a horror film is being scared.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I think this is not like I try and convince somebody else to watch this, and they were like, "Is it like a supernatural thing? Because I don't deal with supernaturals." I'm like, "No, this is about the horror of humanity. This is just that we're all bad people. That we're all horrible, shitty people." And that, you know, you would need a like Christ-like figure to try and redeem everyone and make everyone behave as they should. Because like about part of the way through the film, I think about the second act, they change out characters randomly throughout the movie that the guy is paired up with, so you meet new people and get new philosophies on what they could do to help the situation. And the guy who's in there, the guy that you're following, what's his name again? Going. Going is in there as a philosopher. He's in there as like a volunteer, which is weird. But he apparently, this is a correctional facility you can volunteer to join if you're interested in some like humanity testing challenge, I guess. And he learns from someone who also volunteered to go in. She was part of the like establishment. She was part of the system that runs this facility, and she says, in theory, there's enough food to reach the bottom. If everyone just takes a plate full of food, there will be enough food to get down to the bottom. Turns out she's wrong, but they have to experience that to find out. And he starts trying to implement that. They start trying to make people believe that they could feed everyone if they just showed discipline, some self-restraint. But obviously it doesn't work because, you know, it's prison.
Yeah,
you know, everyone's scared.
Yeah, humanity's greedy, so you're never going to get people taking just their amount. You're going to get people
Everyone wants to
overindulging, which is it's very good timing for them to release this film at this exact time.
Yeah, I don't know when it actually released. I think I've seen it there for like a couple of weeks before the lockdown. But yes, it's a very good point. It's a very good point about shitty humanity. But it's in Spanish, with subtitles, and I would actually recommend it with the Spanish, because you get the first character that you really meet other than Goring is Trimagasi, which is an old man who is in there for like 18 months. So he's been through the ringer in this system. Like, he's seen as bad as it gets. I think he says at one point he went down to like 200. And they're like, wait, no food gets down below level 100. There's no way there's any food down there. He goes, yeah, there's no food. You don't receive anything from anyone. He says, okay, so what did you eat? Did you kill and eat your cellmate? And he goes, nah, I mean, I didn't kill him, but he died and I ate him. And you're like, whoa, whoa, what are we talking about here? And it's his performance is so good. He's so evil. Like, you look at him and you think, this is like the Spanish version of like Danny DeVito. He's just going to be like a weird, eccentric guy. And then like when he responds to certain lines, you're like, oh, it's Spanish Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Like, this is this is evil.
Evil for evil's sake.
Yeah, he's evil, and he's clearly demented, but he's the like reality check at the start of the film. Like, oh, how bad's it going to get? There's a fair chunk of cannibalism in this movie, and that's why I say, like, when they're warning, don't eat when you watch this movie. I really, like, I watched it at like 8 o'clock at night and hadn't had dinner yet, so I just didn't eat. I was like, I can't. I mean, I cooked something eventually, but you can't really settle down for like a
you
good
got over
meal.
it eventually, but you're still just like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I made the mistake as well. I made stir-fry beef. And a lot of the gore in this film looks like beef. And I was like, man, this is really good, but I can't really eat this at the same time as I'm watching this fucking film. But, you know, you soldier on, you find a way. But yeah, it's a great
Life
movie.
finds a way.
Life finds a way, especially through cannibalism. But yeah, it's
Episode title?
Life finds a way through through cannibalism. All right, yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a gory mess in this film. Like, there are certain scenes you're like, oh my god, what the fuck happened in this room? And there's a lot of, as I say, like, cannibalism. It's gonna make some people, if you're very squeamish, this is not the film for you. And they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff with, like, it's very obvious that this is the same set again and again and again. Like, they didn't actually build out like 4 levels of this thing.
They're just reusing the same build up each time.
Yeah, I mean, it's prison cell, so it is the same thing. It's supposed to look the same in every level, but it's weird, and there's a lot of interesting artistic choices when it comes to the actual film, and it's good though. It's very interesting. Like, it is supposed to stick with you, and it does a very good job of making you feel uncomfortable the entire way through, so that when you turn it off, you still feel weird. Like, you don't know how to feel about what you just watched. So you sit and think about it and process it. It's a very effective way of doing it. Especially if you're making a movie where you want people to walk away thinking about bigger consequences and lessons and stuff learned in the movie.
Yeah, it's always good to have a movie with a message that you need to kind of go away and think about. Because as much as I love the Marvel movies and the superhero movies and the comedies and stuff, occasionally having a movie that in there that's making you think. I mean, Joker probably not to any kind of the same extent, but did kind of make you think, was that all worth it? Like, was it real? Kind of made you think about what it'd be like to be in that kind of person's shoes. So it's good to have a thinking movie in there as well.
Yeah. I was talking about this with people. Said it made me feel so uncomfortable. It reminds me of like when you're watching Get Out, and then you just realize something is slightly off about this world. There's something wrong here, but it's the feeling of that with ultra violence. Very impressive.
Get Out was good for me up until the end where they just kill everybody. I was like, you could have done that differently. Like, having them trying to integrate into society and then a kind of feud or something going there would have been cooler, but the fact they just went, kill them all. We're taking over. I was like, didn't like it.
Yeah.
Still a great film, but just that last act wasn't great.
But I'd actually put the platform up there with Get Out. And that's...
oh, really?
It's a big claim, yeah. But I think if you watch it and you come back, you'll be like, yeah, not wrong. But I think I'd love to see your take on it as well, so I'm hoping you get to watch it. But I say, with the Spanish, Timagosi's performance is really interesting. Like, everyone's performance is good, There's a lot of really good acting in this, but I think his is probably my favorite because he's so creepy.
Is there a dub for it? Like an English dub?
There is the English dub available. I watched some parts of it, just like random dialogue scenes, and I just now that I've seen it in Spanish, I'm like, I can't do that. I love Trimagoti so much, like I love his performance that I don't want to swap over to anyone else.
All right, yeah.
So yeah, so it's
I'm
weird.
not a fan of, and if it's a cartoon, I'll watch it dubbed. But if there's a sort of world cinema movie that's been dubbed in English, nah, there's every chance I'll just watch it subtitled.
Yeah, there's something that is just a little bit off with the performances. The dub
Unless
actors
it's,
do a good job, but at the same time, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, unless it's Shin Godzilla. I'm not there for the people talking. I'm there for Godzilla. So
I still
I'll
haven't
leave
seen
the
it
dub
yet.
on.
I'm gonna watch that soon.
Oh, dude, Shin Godzilla's great.
I'll try and get it
It's
watched,
ridiculous.
and we can talk about it next episode then.
Yeah.
Because that's
Most of my notes for Shin Godzilla are just, he does this and it's cool as shit. Like the radiation beam.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it because it's the director for Evangelion, and I watched that recently.
Hideki
And I that guy has some serious like Christ issues and daddy issues and mommy issues, and I'm like, I really hope that you've made something that shows you've gotten over that. I don't know if a Godzilla movie is going to be the place for it, but we'll see.
I've never seen Evangelion, so I can't really compare the two. But to my knowledge, there's not much Christ imagery in. In fact, there's not any Christ imagery in Shin Godzilla.
Well, that's good. He's gotten over that. That's good. No, but most of the story of Evangelion is to do with angels, and then there's random moments where it's very obvious they're going for symbolism associated with like the Catholic Church and stuff like that. And you're like, I can't take that out of the conversation right now. Like, it's very obvious you were trying to do that. If that makes sense.
I suppose that does make sense.
Like at
But
one
with Shin
point,
Godzilla, the one message that I could kind of say that you're trying to put across is just that, like, respect the natural order. Maybe like if you continue to act in such a way, like because you kind of get the sense that he's building up that Godzilla's here to punish humanity.
Yeah, I mean that's always been a central metaphor in Godzilla. So I mean, if you take that out, people would have some serious quite like, what did you take that out for? That's the whole thing for Godzilla.
Yeah, and this was more about the natural order will change and then wreak havoc on the offending parties.
Yeah, there's a lot of Christ imagery in Evangelion. At one point, somebody shoots a laser beam down like a central street, and it blocks. Somebody blocks it or something, like explodes with it, and it explodes out in the shape of a crucifix. And then at the end,
It's not really subtle imagery at that point, is it?
No. At one point, a building blows up, and like the steel beam structures land again in the crucifix form, and stay there. And that's that's in the foreground is characters having dialogue in the background. I'm like, guys, try a little harder, please, just a little bit more subtlety. What else?
I mean, from what I've heard, subtlety is not really Hideki Anno's way.
Oh no, it's not the way of anime, my friend. They were done with subtlety years ago. Although if you are interested in an interesting show, plenty of stuff to kind of dig into on Netflix, Beastars is on there.
Yeah, I ain't gonna watch that, man.
It's weird furry shit. Trash. It's borderline furry trash, but it's a damn good show. I've had an absolute blast with it.
The fact that what's his name? It's not Takahata.
Yeah, the Team 4-Star guys did a video on it like earlier this week.
Yeah,
it was like Kaiser Neko.
Yeah, Kaiser Neko. The fact that he keeps going on about it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It makes me want to watch it less because he has some very overly opinionated thoughts on anime.
Yeah, if you there's a lot to read into it, and there's a lot of things that you can overanalyze, which is why I love it. But I find it a really good, interesting story, and I think the main character, Lugoshi, who's a wolf guy, might be one of my favorite characters because he is very obviously trying to handle himself and try to come to terms with who he really is, and whether or not he wants to be that person or if he wants to change. And I'm interested to see where it goes. I might wait for season 2. I might pick up the manga. I'm not sure. It might be one of the ones where I want to see more, so I have to go looking for the source material. But I don't know. It's going to be weird. I obviously can't have physical copies because then somebody's going to go, hey, what's with all this furry shit in your living room? I'm like, it's not furry shit, I promise.
Just put it next to that weird show about the dragon maid, and no one will ask any questions. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. It could sit there, yeah. It would fit nicely. I have
See,
lizard
different-
girls and furry boys. It'll be great. No one will ask any questions.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would ask any questions.
Because
I think
everyone
just
would
be like,
leave.
This is Colin's DVD collection.
Colin has some peculiar taste, shall we say. Right.
Yeah, they just accept it at this point.
Like, if you see that in someone's living room, you assume there's something weirder going on. Like, you just haven't found the drawer with all the fetish gear yet, or something like that.
Yeah, you haven't found the bodies under the floorboards.
Anything you want to talk about?
No, like I said, there's not much. In fact, actually, no, I do tell a lie. There's something I do want to talk about, but it's not really a massive subject. But a game that I've been looking forward to, The Last of Us Part 2, because I actually did enjoy the first Last of Us game quite a lot, despite the fact that the ending isn't fantastic, in my opinion. But it's still a really good game, really good Naughty Dog story-driven game. But
Yeah,
The Last
very
of Us
well
Part 2 is
praised,
set
yeah.
to come out when? When? No, when? What's the date? Sorry, I'm conferring off screen here. No, it was
Brother
meant to come
Gordon
out
is
May,
filling in
wasn't
with information.
it? Yeah, so it was meant to come out in May sometime, but it's been delayed. No, it was meant to come out the 29th of May, because it was meant to come out around about the same time as Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive, which it was going to be an expensive month for the May of that month, but they've delayed The Last of Us Part 2 indefinitely
Huh, okay.
because they want everybody to experience it at the exact same time, and they want to kind of polish up some of the rough edges that they found. So the game is 98% complete. You just want to take the time and shore up a couple more things, make the game a bit better, which I can't really fault them for at all. But as usual, you'll see the people who take to Twitter, probably the same people that tried to say that Karen is a racist slur, take to Twitter and say, this is ridiculous, why can't you just give us the game if it's almost finished?
I'm not sure how I feel about that one, because the polish is always appreciated. If someone wants to take time to fix and perfect the game the way that they wanted to show it originally, I'm all for that. The idea though that it's 98% done and they won't just put it out digitally, I'm a bit
It's more
unsure.
so that people can get their physical copies at the same time. It's not so that they're not going to give, Europe are going to get it a month before, or Europe and America are going to get it a month before, other countries. I can see it from that stance. It's just being, trying to make it fair. But at the same time, I do kind of agree that if the game's already that far into completion, why not just, do the polishing and release it digitally?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I'm a bit uneasy about the idea that we really do just want everyone to experience it at the same time. I think somewhere there's an executive saying, guys, we'll take a hit because we'll put out this game and it'll be disappearing before it'll disappear out the consciousness before we get some really good numbers in based on sales. So, but I don't know. I'd really see it now. I think you'd have people so hungry for good content, especially a game that is from a famously good series. I don't see like sales would be that affected. I think people would switch to the digital. Unless there
I
was
also think that it might be something to do with the fact that it is a game about a global pandemic that destroys all of America. So maybe it might not be in the best taste to release a game like that.
yeah, true. I didn't really think about that one. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, maybe it is a PR move to try and save a bit of company reputation, but at the same time, like, good art's good art. If you make it well and if it's well made, it'd get the respect it deserves. And people say, yeah, it was a bit of an awkward time, but I mean, still a good game.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but people are still going to buy it. I'm still going to buy it. It just means I'll be able to buy it a little bit later. I'll be able to focus a bit more on Xenoblade Chronicles, which I'm going to play the holy crap out of.
Yeah,
And I am very much looking forward to playing that game in full HD with new areas and shit added. So I'm willing to dive into yet another 80-hour RPG, and I'm going to love every hour of that 80 hours.
I started watching The Witcher, which I know you've talked about in the show, and I was just watching it. I'm only like 4 episodes in. I just finished episode 4 before we started, and it's making me want to play the game. And
It has that effect on a lot of people, because I know quite a few people on Facebook have said watched the Witcher TV show, have now bought Witcher 1, 2 and 3 on Steam. And, like, the Witcher 1 alone is going to take you about a month. So slow your roll by one at a time.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I want to play 1, 2, and 3 because it's just gonna have age. So 1, 2, 1 and 2 will probably age pretty bad. I might go and play
I'd
3
just go straight into 3.
because I've heard
I
that they
haven't played
probably
1 or
made it
2.
with that in mind that you would maybe have to skip 1 and 2 and go straight to 3. So I might go there. We'll find out.
3 gives you a recap of 1 and 2.
Oh, then absolutely fuck 1 and 2. Sorry, I'm going straight for that.
Yeah, just go straight for 3. But you'll be able to get 3 either on Game Pass. Yeah, it's on Game Pass.
I didn't think of that.
And the game itself, I think I bought the Game of the Year edition, or no, just the regular version for £10.
See,
So it's not an expensive game.
I went digging for it and went looking on Steam and saw that it was there for £24. I was texting a mate about it as well.
That might be the Game of the Year edition.
No, that was the normal version, and then the Game of the Year was $35, because that includes 2 sets of DLC, so that includes more content, so you get more bang for your buck. But I didn't know it would be on Game Pass. But if it is, that's me sold. Because if it's
it is on Game Pass, and the DLC isn't expensive.
all right, so a mate of mine actually offered me the disc. He said, "Look, I've got the disc here. I'm not using it. If you want it, come and grab it."
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't unlocked, then I'd definitely loan you my copy if you didn't have Game Pass. But if you've got Game Pass and you're looking for something to do, fire into some Witcher.
Oh, I definitely have Game Pass because it came out of my account this morning. I noticed that. I saw an email. I'm like, shit, I forgot I had that still on. God damn it. I never use it.
I was trying to use Game Pass recently to play some Minecraft. I couldn't get it to download on my PC because why would they give it for free on one console and, give you it for free on another?
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't get it on PC.
I got, that's what I got. I got Ori and the Will of the Forest. Ori and the Will of the Wisp, sorry. Yeah.
I've heard that game's great.
The Ori games are so much fun. They just, you could sit and stare at them for hours on end.
Yeah, I've heard the Blind Forest is a pretty good game, and the Will of the Wisps just builds on top of that. I've kind of got a weakness for those type of Metroidvania games. Like, my brother is a huge fan of the game Hollow Knight by a company called Team Cherry, and it was one of those games where I wasn't really interested in it, but I seen Gordon play it, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to try it, and I think I lost about 8 hours just running through these games, because you'll get to one area, then you go, aha, I have a new item, I'll go back this way, and next thing you know, you've lost most of your day.
I wish I'd given it more attention the first time I played it through and actually thought about it, because I was trying to just kind of casually jump in for like a half an hour of gameplay and then jump back out, and it's not really, you need to learn the map, you need to explore, you need to know, learn the control scheme, and I got frustrated and just kind of left the first one. But I'm going to go back and play both now, because they're really well made games, and they're gorgeous. If my desktop background wasn't the fan art of Beelzebubs, the webcomic that I sent you the link to one of their music videos, it's a cartoon black metal band.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah. I still need to listen to
that. It's surprisingly good. Like, it's way better than it has any right to be. But I've got on the website, it started as a webcomic, and on the original website they have desktops that you can download, and I've got one of them as my desktop background right now, and it looks pretty fucking baller. I don't know how they made this, but it's a really good, it's really gorgeous art style. Everything looks so, it's all black and white, but it looks so crisp in a way. It's amazingly detailed as well. I was going through it and I'm like, oh shit, I can see little details and little flecks of dirt and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's a great video. There's 2 videos out for them right now on Century Media Records, and you should just watch them both.
Yeah, I'll give it a look.
So I'd also recommend that to everyone else listening is Beelzebubs. Have fun trying to Google it, because there's a lot of weird shit pops up. But if you look
can
at
imagine
YouTube,
that's the name for a few bands.
Yeah, it's just close enough to Beelzebub that it gets satanic metal clicks. It's fine. Ready for a showstopper?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, this one's it's gonna be stupid.
Sorry, before you get into the showstopper, one thing I love about, I know I can't wait for the lockdown to be over so we can record, in the old studio, using the proper setup and everything. But one thing I love about recording is the fact that the dogs are in full view, and one of them is just staring at me right now as if to say, hurry the fuck up and take me out.
You promised me walkies. Where are my walkies?
Yeah, he's just looking at me going, dude, hurry up. Pretty funny. Sorry, yeah, showstopper.
So we're going to talk about a YouTube D&D show called Far Verona. And this is made by...
what, sorry?
Far Verona.
Far Verona, right.
Yes.
I shall look that up.
I originally made a quote about like Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, because that takes place in Fair Verona, but then I took it out because it's pretentious as fuck. So this is run by a guy called, or it's produced, the show is produced by a guy called It Me JP on YouTube.
I have found, incidentally, I found the first 3 videos for Far Verona on YouTube were a compilation of season 1.
Right.
The second video is season 2, episode 18.
Yep.
Episode 3, or the third video in the list is Why I Quit Far Verona by a woman called Elspeth Eastman.
Well, this is what we're about to talk about, because she quits for a weird reason. So you and I have talked about Critical Role. We're big fans of that. There's a live streamed podcast Dungeons and Dragons sessions that are really well produced. It's an entertaining show because it's a bunch of voice actors playing characters, and we talked about this because we knew that if this is kicking off, it's massively popular. There's going to be imitators. And JP is obviously producing a couple of different types of shows. He's doing Let's Plays, he's doing like group roleplay sessions, and Far Verona is one of those shows that he's producing, and this is season 2. So they had a season 1, it's all backed on Patreon by people who want to see this type of content, and for that he's not actually involved in the game itself, but he has Dungeon Master Adam Coble, who is running the actual sessions. So Adam Coble is playing as Game Master. I'm probably going to say Dungeon Master, but it's Game Master because it's not Dungeons and Dragons that they're playing. It's a different role-playing system.
GM probably.
So they have the show, and they have a couple of the characters, and what's her name again? Elspeth. I've got a note here somewhere.
Elspeth Eastman.
Elspeth Eastman is one of the characters on there, and she's playing a character called Johnny, and Johnny is a synthetic human, kind of like cyborg type thing going on.
Alright, so it's not a sword and sandals type thing, it's more of a cyberpunk-y thing.
Yeah, cyberpunk. Because they talked about, actually went and watched some of the episodes in question, which is, funny enough, season 2, episode 18, and they have they're talking about police cars chasing them down the streets and stuff like that. So Johnny needs repairs after an adventure, and they decide to go to a place that Johnny has been to off camera in a way. Like they haven't been there in a game session, but they've like Johnny knows the place, he knows the guy running it, so they go there for repairs. And because none of the other characters have been there before, they're suspicious of the guy. Just kind of role playing it through. They're just kind of like, if you're not into RPGs, if you were to leave a character like that alone with an NPC, a good game master will use that as an opportunity to abduct or hurt one of the characters or murder them. It's kind of like saying, I'll be right back in a horror movie. You're basically begging for someone to come and change the storyline. It's a good way to start new story arcs.
To give another analogy, possibly linked to the source material, it's like saying, let's split up in a game of D&D.
Yes, or we'll split up, or saying we'll be fine. You're just begging for something to happen. So the group all agree to stay with Johnny while he's being repaired. And unfortunately, that means that the entire group gets to listen to Adam Coble make some really bad innuendos. So during this gameplay session, he gets him onto the repair bench and then pulls out a tool, some kind of repairing tool, and starts to whisper to Johnny that he'll be gentle as he sticks it in. It is absolutely cringeworthy, like bad joke material, but it is kind of funny because it is the basis of him describing that as he inserts the tool, he proceeds to describe what he can only term as a robot orgasm. He inserts the tool to fix Johnny, which results in him having buckling knees, flashing in optical receptors, and sensory overloads all over Johnny's body as he's being touched where he's never been touched before. That then is the last line in the session. After that, they wrap up the stream and they're like, yep, that's it. That's how we end the show. And this is like a high quality production stream. And everyone's got like DSLRs with good compressed microphones. This is the top quality broadcast, which means you get to watch everyone's reaction to this cringy fucking joke. It's hilarious. There's a guy who has his head in his hands for 2 minutes while all this is going on. Like, everyone just, like, as they catch on to what the joke is, they're like, oh my god, we're actually talking about robot orgasms on our fucking D&D stream. What are we doing? It's amazing. And it was a lot of really weird reactions as people go, oh my god, this is going to be in like Twitch cringe compilations for the next year.
And rightly so.
And my favorite part of this though is that Adam Coble, the game master, doesn't realize how everyone else is reacting. You can see all four people on screen at the same time. He doesn't see any of it and is just grinning from ear to ear for making this dumb joke that's not even that funny.
Is he? I'm guessing he's all proud of himself. He's all happy.
He is so happy with his joke because you can tell that this guy has just spent ages writing this scenario because it was a pre-planned character that this character was going to be this way with Johnny, and Adam Coble had written it all down and had planned it all out that this is how this is going to go, and that this would be the comedic zinger to end the show for this week. It did not go down well with the fans of the show because it's a cringy joke, but it raises a lot of questions. Was it?
Yeah, it was quite bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie. If I was at the table, my D&D table, or my Pathfinder group, and that kind of thing happened, I would have checked the DM or said, "I'm out of this group. I'm done." That's bad.
Well, this is the thing is that with a majority of players, this would have been somebody would take the DM aside and say, "You sound like a moron. You sound like an idiot. These jokes are unfunny or they're uncomfortable to be around. Please stop what you're doing. This is how it would be dealt with." Unfortunately, the group or the fans of the audience are very progressive. They're going for the woke crowd. With these gameplays, like it's all very safe space orientated, and it's all it's a very kind of safe environment, and this really comes out when it comes to the response from the community, because if you actually look at that video for season 2 episode 18, it's massively been disliked. The dislike ratio has been bombed basically, and then as we say, the woman who played Johnny, Elspeth Eastman, has left the group because she found it very uncomfortable and made a 4-minute video just summarising her opinions on what was going on. She didn't like the joke after viewing it multiple times and said she didn't want to be part of the show. And then she says she can't trust Coble as a game master or as a friend after what he said. A bit of an extreme reaction.
It is an extreme reaction, but if your GM, their whole job is to not make the players uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because they want to... Your GM writes days worth of content. Like, writes this massive story for you to play. He ultimately needs to create an environment where you're not going to want to run away if he tries to make a joke.
Yeah.
Or if he does something that you disagree with.
Now, this is where it becomes interesting, because you and I look at this and say, okay, it's a joke that didn't land. We make dozens of them every time we make an episode. My note actually says in here, I can't really throw stones at this guy because I'm in a glass house, and I probably made 5 bad jokes like that this episode. Like, I've made probably pretty horrific jokes at some point during Gibberpish that I could easily be hauled up for. So there's obviously the fan backlash. Once Elspeth puts in her resignation, the other members of the cast that are on also just say, nope, we're done, we're out of here. JP then has like an announcement video explaining his comment announcement video with Adam Coble explaining that season 2 is just basically cancelled. They won't do any more content from that for a while because they're just going to let it rest for a bit, and they'll come back to it when they figure it out. But what I found real interesting is the way they're talking about putting in preventative measures to stop this type of thing happening in the future. And they say, like, a game master will be planning out weeks in advance. And he, obviously, Adam Coble highlights the fact that he should have seen this as being potentially problematic, because he's basically describing himself molesting a robot. And he should have thought this through, he should have planned ahead, he should have flagged it up himself to be an issue to discuss with the members of the game panel before it became a live broadcast. So,
for anybody who's wondering, for the talking about Far Verona Season 2, Episode 18, Part 2, there's 206 likes to 1,000 dislikes.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
It's escalating because obviously it's traveling outside of just the the actual fans of the show now. There's Polygon articles about it. I found one on a place called Game Rant, which was a garbage fucking website, and the article itself was really bad. Every time they talked about something in this event, they linked out to another article about something completely unrelated on their website. I was like, this is offensively bad journalism. Who are you people? Like, they set it up so that it seems like the link will go to something related to the content, and it's a totally different article. At one point, I was reading the article about this incident and the reaction from the community, and I was linked to a release of the top 10 best fighting games of 2018. I was like, who the fuck did this? who made this article? But yeah, back to like Adam Coble. He says that this type of situation can be avoided with the right protocols, and talks about opt-out cards and for people who don't want to be in certain scenarios and stuff, and like just things that have apparently crept into role-play games since I used to play. But the whole thing sounds like health and safety regulations for jokes, and I'm not okay with that for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it does try to find line, because they're saying you're right. You need to be careful with what kind of jokes you're saying, but particularly in a D&D session, you need to be careful of what your players are comfortable with, because it's one thing that I don't do in like my current Pathfinder group. Like, we've been through 2 GMs, and even before that, when I played a bit of D&D, it was one thing I always said was like, I'm not comfortable with certain things. Like, I'm not comfortable doing where my character's being interrogated. I'm not comfortable doing that shit. I'm not comfortable playing that kind of character. Like, I'm not comfortable doing character romances, because that shit's just weird to me. I can't get that disconnect. Like, more often than not, the GM is a personal friend. Like, I can't get that disconnect of they're playing a character. I'm just like, nah, this feels weird. I'm not comfortable with it. And to be fair, most of them have respected that wish, but there was one circumstance where like my character was tied down and interrogated, and like, poked and prodded, and like I got my hand cut off. I got my hand cut off. My character got his hand cut off, and he got his ear cut off, and he got mutilated and shit, to the point where that character was no longer playable. And all the DM said to me at the time was, well, we shouldn't have walked into that situation, but you had all this content worked out for my character that you now have to rewrite or scrap because you've mutilated my character. Anyway, that's just how it goes, mate.
Yeah, but that's a good point, actually, is that when you speak of your character, you use the first person. You're like, oh, I did this.
Yeah.
You have a connection to these characters.
Yeah.
And it's part of how people feel connected to these. And then, obviously, the fans of the show will feel connected to the character in the same way that they would feel connected to, like, a TV show character.
Yeah.
And, I found a couple of other sources on this. There was a couple of people who've managed to, like, find the clip of the show. If you go to the actual episode, like the YouTube episode of the show, they describe the in the top of the description, it says graphic content warning for the description of the scene, which I've got
up just now. It's like between 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20 or something.
116 to 118, I think it was. That they've labelled that as graphic content, which I kind of chuckled at that one. Because that one's like, if you find that a bit much, there's the whole rest of the internet which you will not enjoy. But
maybe stay away from 4chan. Places like that are not going to go well for you.
But the video response with JP and Adam's like the GM's response on Twitter was really odd. Like, this seems to have really fucked with him. If you watch the video of like him giving the delivery of the joke, and then watch this video which came out like a week or two later, it honestly looks like that guy has been chewed out by everyone he knows. Like, he looks physically beaten in a weird way. Like, you can see the light has gone out of his eyes. So I imagine it's not been a fun week for him. But in his response on Twitter, he talked about needing to seek therapy and counselling for making the jokes, so that he doesn't act out like this.
So was it just one joke?
Yeah, this 90-second joke about like sticking it in a robot in a certain way and making them orgasm. Like, he thinks that this joke is this joke is the issue. And this is the fact that he would make this joke shows that he is acting out in what he believes in and how he presents himself to the public doesn't actually line up with how he believes himself to be, like how he presents himself and what he thinks he is isn't the same. And he says he's called out this type of behavior in the past in other groups, so behaving like this makes him a hypocrite, and he just wants to be he doesn't want to be that way. But he describes it as like, I'm now beginning a journey which will go on the rest of my life. I'm like, you made a bad joke. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, get over yourself.
The joke itself would probably cause me to leave the table. Like, it would probably make me think, do I really want to be part of this group if that's the kind of shit this guy's doing? Because, like I said, I'm uncomfortable doing that kind of inter-character like, romance thing. It's weird. Weird to me anyway, but like the fact this guy is literally willing to join like the priesthood
Yeah.
and seek recompense for his sins and shit like that. That's too far, man. You need to just admit that you made a shitty joke.
Yeah.
It didn't land. It caused one of your players to leave, and it caused your show to get cancelled. You just need to kind of own that, dog. Like, you can't.
Yeah. It's something I really
You can't take it too far.
I do want to call BS on that part of the apology, because he talks about making sure that like the cast and the people in the game are comfortable talking about like taboo subjects and having intense scenes or exploring dark areas through the medium of the game. And he brings this up like in a couple different places. But that's really not what happened. You just made a shitty joke about molesting a robot. Like, this is not, like, we just talked about the platform because it's an exploration of dark parts of humanity. You just made a joke about molesting a robot. You need to just own that, in a way.
Yeah. If anything, you should do less, trying to sort out your own problems and just more talking to the person that you offended and just saying, like, look, this is weird.
I'm sorry I made this weird comment, this weird joke, and we presented it and we finished it off and we showed this is the content we want to make, and I've offended everyone who watched the show apparently, and it just like he does talk about the fact he's went to the individual cast members of the show and obviously it made JP and made apologies and went kind of begging for it to not end the way it did. But obviously they're not having any of it because this is just not the crowd they are. It's really weird, but it was such a strange situation. The weird thing is the game, like he's not that good a DM. He's not that good of a game manager. He's not that great. The show itself is pretty hard to watch. None of them are that interested or interesting in a way.
That kind of explains the overreaction then. If it's a new GM or an inexperienced GM, that explains the massive overreaction.
Well, apparently he's supposed to be like some award-winning game designer, but you listen to him talking, you're like, dude, have you played any of these games before? There's no like flavor text. He just describes things as being like various objects. He never actually puts detail into the world. It doesn't, as far as I can see from watching like a couple of short clips, he's just not that great, I
mean, it's not really a big surprise to find out that someone who has worked in game design for a while is not that great at GM. Like, not good at social skills. I mean, it's not that big a surprise.
Yeah, it's I'd give it a watch.
Being a GM takes time. Like, you can't just walk in and expect to be great at it. You need to kind of buy into it. You need to throw yourself in it because you're going to make weird characters. You're going to do weird accents. You're going to have to do things that you would never really do in your day-to-day life. You're going to have to voice women. You're going to have to voice children. You're going to have to voice, weird creatures with weird accents and stuff like that. You're going to have to do dumb shit like that. So you just need to throw yourself into it. And if that's not for you, then maybe be a player instead of a GM. Maybe experience it for the other side of the table first.
But yeah, I knew this would be something that I could maybe interest you with because it is such a weird story and it is vaguely tied to like our love of tabletop games and just the weird geeky community we love to be a part of. I mean, these are our people, and yet here we have such a strange story that would just. I'd like to think this would never happen with us,
Yeah.
For a number of reasons.
I think because of how I play the game, I would never put any players that I was in a game with in that situation. I would never make those weird, uncomfortable situations that I wouldn't talk to someone who, like, obviously, this is a bit of a weird situation, but when you go with it, but I wouldn't put someone who has, like, an estranged relationship with a father in a situation where they have to confront their father. Like, that's just a Pandora's box you don't want to open.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to broadcast that moment of gameplay to, say, like 50,000 people or however many.
Perfect example of bad GMing. The episode of the IT Crowd where Moss forces Roy to work through his breakup.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Don't
about
do
that.
that to your friends. Like, your friends will hate you.
And don't do that while you're all pointing webcams at each other. Jesus.
Don't do it on mic either, because that will you'll get like even if you're doing it off camera, off microphone, and you're doing it live, you do shit like that, you're going to get punched in the face or just bawled out. Like someone's just going to go the full Christian Bale on you and bawl the hell at you.
Somebody really should have taken the guy aside and said, "Look, what you just did was really weird. Everyone's really like you can see everyone's discomfort. Everyone going, oh God, no, what did he just say?" And it's actually quite funny to watch them. Like one guy gets it straight off the bat, another guy follows like 5 seconds later, and then there's another girl in the group whose face is just open. Like you could fit a fucking golf ball in there and have room to spare for like a couple like extra pieces of like bread or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird one, but probably one that GM's definitely going to live to regret.
So that's going to be our teaching moment for the day, and I think we're wrapped up for the episode. So if you'd like to send us a message on Twitter at Gibberpish or email us gibberpishpodcast@gmail.com.
Organisation.
Keep forgetting. Government. That's how we keep open during the coronavirus. So hopefully you guys are at home enjoying a little bit of the good life and staying safe. All right, and we will see you next time.
A little bit of that essential pish.
That essential fish. We'll drip feed it into you.